Rena usually does that. Rena, our corporate officer, usually runs it. Willing is doing it as well. All right. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'll call to order the regular council meeting for November 17th. This evening, joining us are our youth counselors from George Eliot Community School. If you stand by the flag, William, you taking a picture, or is Karen or anybody? Todd, you got one on? Oh, William's good. Cassidy Gunn and Caitlin Fleming. Cassidy, Caitlin, both. Not too close.
Oh, right.
What's your favorite?
Okay, I'm just gonna do one.
Smile, James.
Yeah.
Okay.
Smiling, just
Yeah.
can't see it. Yeah.
You both grade 12?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right. Next up is the adoption of the agenda. Councillor Ireland, Councillor Scarrow. Those no additions, those in favor, opposed, motion carries. Thank you. And adoption of the minutes of regular council meeting. Councillor Ireland, Councillor McKenzie, errors or omissions? Hearing none, those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. No report from me. Announcements. The masks are required in district buildings. We ask everybody that attends to have a mask and wear it when you're in contact with anybody, when you're in the hallways or around and about in any of our facilities that are municipal. We ask that you wear masks, and please do so. The numbers today are phenomenal in those communities that haven't been wearing masks. But we have a delegation from Lake Country Pickleball Club. Come to the podium if you wish to address council. And your name is a microphone on if should be, if it comes red.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Good evening. My name's Bob Hudgens. I'm the new president of the Lake Country Pickleball Club, and we're here to share some good news and some things that we want to thank the district for allowing us to do this year. It's turned out more successful than we ever envisioned. So first of all, with our presentation here, we're going to talk about our team, the memorandum of understanding, the benefits of the membership of why people have joined, the return to play process. This just does not happen overnight. Our accomplishments in the future, and then any questions if you have them.
We'll get them if it doesn't go beyond 10 minutes.
That's what I planned on.
Great.
Okay. First of all, our district or our club would like to say thank you to the district. There are clubs that were not able to run this year because of the concerns about COVID. So first of all, we want to thank you and the staff for allowing us to operate this year for the first time. This is our membership team, and the people we have here are largely retired or semi-retired, but we operate through a variety of modes of action. There are many people I've never even talked to this year on the club because of social distancing. So we do it through Zoom, email, text, social media, etc. Now, the beginning, from September last year until March, we basically became a nonprofit society. We developed a memorandum of understanding with the district where basically we ran Monday to Saturday in the mornings, about 15% of the time over at benchlands. We had to supply insurance. There would be no seating or sitting in the tennis court area. And we would have 4 pickleball courts lined on the tennis court, of which we would contribute $1,000 to. At that point, we started selling memberships in early March, and we budgeted for 30 or 70 members. These are the benefits of membership, and the ones I want to bring to your attention in particular is we gave every member their own ball. And that was part of our strategy for opening up, so that the only ball you ever touched was your own. If you were playing with someone else's ball, you kicked it towards them, you handled it with a paddle, or you scooped it. So everyone had a different ball, and they used those all year. We also basically put people into groups at the first of the year, and we would adjust these, but we had some groups that never changed all year, so that we could identify if there was any COVID outbreaks and who they were playing with that day. We encouraged social distancing. We did not congregate outside the courts. That was really tough to keep reminding people, because people want to get together, right? So you have people like me yelling at them to spread out. Now, in the early years of this year, basically, as you know, all sports courts in the district were closed, okay? So it puts a damper on our activity. So in April, we launched a web site. The address there is free, and we're changing that to something where we're paying a domain name for. The tennis court at Benchlands was lined with 4 pickleball courts, and we started negotiations to open up play. And so that's where the ball strategy, the social distancing, the cleaning, were all brought to fold. Then we had the process of acquiring nets. Guess what? Pickleball Depot was sold out. They had no nets because people were buying them during the early parts of that year. And we had to get rackets, etc. And then the courts opened on the 15th and club play began on the June 1st. We advertised in a variety of Facebook community groups, word of mouth. We were featured in Cast the Net, and by early June, we had passed 100 members. Remember that, and this is what the courts look like. You have light blue lines, and here we have 4 players who learned the game a half an hour ago. Okay, using the nets, and we got people playing quickly. We had this plan for return. Everyone had to sign a waiver about our protocols. If you were sick, you stayed home. We kept people in bubble groups and maintained them all year. We did make some adjustments because some people improved their play so much it was not good for them to stay in that group. Strict physical distancing all the time, use your own ball, and frequent cleaning of devices. As a result, we've had 0 COVID issues over at Benchlands. Performance highlights. I mentioned earlier that we were looking for 70 members. We got 155. Last year, using 5 courts, we had 1,300 user visits. This year we had 4,000. Our youth program started up. We had parents who would actually go over and pick up kids in the community and bring them over to play. We had 12 skill clinics, basically 180 spots, where we did everything from teaching people how to play the game, how to teach the game, practice sessions, etc. About 180. Our website hit 10,000 hits just recently. And again, 0 transmissions. Now, the nets. Initially, we had 6 people who had their own net. They didn't play every day, so people had to go around, scrounge them, etc. And I called the Vernon Pickleball Association. I said, you guys no longer need your nets. How about, throwing a few our way? Because they went to their own permanent courts. And they said, sure, we'll give you 4. Where do we keep them? Well, there was no place at Benchlands to do so. And so I cleaned out one of my garden sheds and threw them on my property. And people would come by at 7:30 in the morning, pick up nets, bring them back after 12 o'clock. And this was all coordinated. Not everybody lived in the lakes. In late June, I believe it was, the district said, well, we're going to build you a shed down there. And we thought, well, great. And so Rod Johnson and Mike King with the staff came up with this idea of the shed that was done in September. The immediate reaction of the membership was, wow. Okay, we no longer have to go all over the place to pick up rackets and stuff. And we fielded everything from first aid kits to extra paddles. And again, for that, we want to say thank you. Our accomplishments. We are the largest new pickleball club in British Columbia. 95% of our members live in Lake Country. We had uninterrupted play except for rain, snow, and smoke this year. We basically tried to maximize our allotted time. And then, yes, there were times that we did not use the tennis court, and we had people who played tennis on there during our allotted time. We share. Financial and fiscal responsibility. Despite the fact that we are probably the cheapest club to join in the Valley, we've got $1,000 still in the bank. okay? We want to encourage an active lifestyle in the community, and it's all done with teamwork from the district, from the individual members in the club. These are the things that we believe have been important to maximize recreation facility use, okay? When you have 4,000 users, you're maximizing the time there. A safe, easy to learn playing environment for all ages. We had really no injuries, even though we had insurance. I'm not saying we're not going to have it in the future. Basically, we have, I can't read that here because I'm fogging up. Really happened as an economic benefit is many of the community halls have seen an increase in indoor pickleball. Okanagan Center now has 12 groups playing there throughout the weeks. Oyama has 2 groups, and George Eliot has 2 groups, all playing indoors, okay? And yes, they're paying fees to do that, more than they would pay for our membership for the year. Basically, we want to create a sense of community. And this is our future development, what we want in the future. We're estimating about 175 members next year. We're going to improve our web presence. We're doing that. Introduce the sports to teenagers and the working public. We had 11, we have perhaps a half a dozen adults playing who are under the age of 40. We had probably a dozen kids who were children of members or grandchildren, but we haven't hit the teenagers group yet and the working public. And we had requests from people saying, well, I work, but I can't play. What do I do? And I'm going, well, you know, I mean, you can come over and play in the evening. But again, the problem is finding someone to play with. We want to encourage next year interclub play. Vernon, Kelowna, West Kelowna, Holiday Park, and Predator Ridge, we would have come over and play for 2 hours, bring 10 of your or 20 of your people, play 20 of ours, a great social event. Community outreach programs with stratas and organized clubs. We talked to a scout group, they want to learn how to game, and we got rackets they can use for free. Local sponsorship, this is something we want to increase on. We have one sponsor with Pickleball Depot, which has made them a fortune, and we have gotten some benefit with balls and stuff too. We want to have a Lakestone Community Day in the evening as part of a selling thing. We were talking about that with the individual over there. Going forward, we would love to have continued support from the district. Okay, if you're not happy with us, we don't work. Okay, we're going to start negotiations for a new memorandum of understanding. We want to continue to work with the planners and the staff in the district. We want to have additional space at Benchlands. With our numbers, it became really hard to manipulate people to play within 3 to 4 times a week in their group, social distancing, etc. So even without COVID next year, it's going to be a scramble. We use it 15% of the time. We witnessed perhaps the basketball court being used by one of our members while he was waiting to go on more than anything else. We did see some hockey players, etc., but not to any degree. We will contribute to the cost of the lining of the courts. We want to expand our youth program with various groups and get this agreement done. Now, the additional courts will look something like this. They might be moved over a little bit to the middle. Again, these are not prime spacing. It's a little bit tight, but we make it work. We want to have, there's a discussion about having some seating at Benchlands, and with the age of our group, shade was considered to be something that was important. A defibrillator. Well, okay, you got people playing pickleball. They're in their 70s, they're in their 60s. They're going, what happens if I drop dead? You're dead. And so one of our members of our executive works on the ski team, and we may even get a defibrillator for free. Okay, so we're looking at that. Coordination of introduction to pickleball in the schools. This is where we need some help. The other districts I've talked to, Kelowna and Vernon, they've had a hard time getting into the schools. My philosophy is if we have the facilities, hopefully the schools will help that and it become something they can do as part of their regular life. To improve outdoor and indoor facilities, such as one permanent net at the lakes for community play. There is one that you can buy a net where it's basically a permanent structure you can roll in, roll out, and you can't steal it that easy. And I've gone on, I hit the button too far. So, any questions?
Any questions? Hearing none. It was a good presentation. Thank you. Councillor Scarrow. and Councillor Reid.
Thanks for your presentation, and I'm impressed with your numbers and the quality of what you're offering the Lake Country public, and I'm very impressed with the fact that 95% of your membership is Lake Country. One of the things that you were talking about was the age of your group and the need for shade. We have a development coming up in the future, and I would wonder if that would provide you some shade and how you would feel about that, because it'll be directly across the street from the pickleball courts. Do you have any input?
Well, the shade, the way the sun develops there, at 10 o'clock, it is brutally hot in July and August, okay? And so the shade, that'll affect it later in the afternoon, because I understand this might be a six-story complex there, right? Well, neither do I. But what I'm talking about, something in the shaded area, because some of us had to even bring golf umbrellas. It was so bad, okay? And again, we're very fortunate we have a hydration center there where there's running water, and that's something people use quite a bit. So what I'm talking about is something where it's sort of like a large umbrella, okay?
Okay.
Any other questions?
Councillor Reid?
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation and the positivity that you've shown in it. I have two questions. Firstly, how much is it for a membership?
$30.
$30. So $30 times $100, so you're getting $3,500 a year.
Yeah.
Okay. And my second question is, again, I admire your positivity with the statement without COVID next year.
Yeah, we don't know.
That really concerns me, that we're talking about inter-club play with Vernon, Kelowna, West Kelowna, Holiday Park, and Predator
Only if
Ridge.
there's no COVID.
That's only if there's no COVID and there's something there. We're, because of the age of our group, like I've played with basically the same people all year.
But
Okay?
now you're talking about opening it up next
If
year.
it's opened up next year, and again, this is with consultation with the district, okay? So none of the stuff like the club visitations or whatever, the evening with the Lakestone group, if COVID's around next year, none of this stuff will fly. I don't feel comfortable personally interacting with people who I don't know where they've been, etc.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think for me personally, I couldn't support it if it was going to go ahead like we're in a COVID environment.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think we have to say COVID is going to be here next year.
I mean, if
We're
you
in
come up to
November.
us in March and say, let's say things have fallen off the cliff, right? And you're saying like, okay, guys, we cannot open up the courts. We go with what you say.
Okay.
Okay. And I mean,
That
everything
reassures
we've
me.
done is been trying to be done with consultation with the district. We even went as far to have a meeting with Pickleball BC about how do we open up. And what we put in place were things that a lot of districts were doing and doing successfully. From what I understand, I believe there was one case of COVID-19 amongst all the 6,000 plus pickleball players in the province.
But I think we do need to recognize where we are today and the situation that a lot of our communities.
Yeah, no,
face.
I'm certainly more than just a little bit concerned about what's happening right now. And so anything we do next year in terms of negotiations or plans, it's got to be prefaced with you guys saying, no, you can do this, you can't do this. We're not going to go off into the wild, wild west and just do stuff because we can and nobody's going to stop us.
Right.
We
Very
do
good.
it with consultation with the district.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. You have to talk to our youth counselors about getting into the schools.
James?
Yeah.
James?
Who's the youth council?
James?
Yeah, I'll get to you, Penny.
Okay.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Mr.
sure.
Mayor.
Okay.
No, excellent presentation, Bob, and it's nice to see you again. It's always great to work with you. And you mentioned in it the scouting program, and you were probably mentioning Scouter Bob Harding,
Oh, yeah.
who I work with quite a bit. So once this COVID is gone and scouting is, because right now scouting is down. So once scouting is back up and running again, we'll be working together on getting some scouts out there and stuff, because this is an excellent thing, and this is also something that will bring them badge requirements and stuff too. So I put a lot of effort into this and put a lot of support into this. So I just wanted to tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is that we've looked at other programs that are out there and participation is down remarkably, whereas ours has doubled from what we predicted. So, I mean, like, we're doing things, and again, don't discount the fact that we gave clinics to teach people how to play. And we gave people an opportunity to play 3-4 times a week, okay?
Okay. Councillor Gamble.
Oh, thanks. I just wanted to congratulate you on doing such an incredible job. It's not really any questions, but just to be flexible and make the move from the lakes down to the benchlands and make lemonade with lemons. I think that's really quite a testament to your success. And the fact that you've right now got 155 members, you may at some point find 175, you might have to cap it. So good job, really good job.
We did cap it at 140 in August. And then what happened, we had a lot of people in the lakes who moved back to Alberta, okay? And then we had people who moved into Holiday Park who were going like, we want somewhere to play. Okay, so we adjusted for that as well. I mean, like, we were really concerned about how we were going to keep people on the course. But look, our success is due to you guys for allowing us to operate the way we have and to, give us some free reign, but also in consultation with what's going on. Okay.
Great. Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks, Bob, for that presentation. So the defibrillator, or however you pronounce that,
Yeah.
Richard. So we had one out in Oyama that was, out in the open, and somebody liked it more than. So
Yeah.
we eventually got it back, but the problem with one out in the open is that they're easy target. So how would you suggest we deal with that?
Well, okay. First of all, our whole plan right now, the vice president this year, he's on the ski patrol team. So he's trying to get one that they're not going to use in the off season, right? So
Okay.
It's free. It's $1,400 at Costco. You guys buy them for about $2,000. Where would we store it? Well, again, I'm worried about theft, and I would store it in the shed that we have there, and then it's available. I know down the road, the show center across the hall or across the road will be a fitness center and will have their own as well. I mean, this is something we're looking at. When you have a member who's in their 70s going like, Bob, I don't want to die of a heart attack here. I want to play. Can we get one? I'm going to say no. We will explore that option. It may happen. It may not. Okay. But again, it will be in consultation with you guys. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Arnold.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and great presentation, Bob. The positivity is fantastic. I think you guys have, I don't really have a question. I just think you guys have done a tremendous job in being able to get out there and put some restrictions in so that you can play and keep going, because a lot of sports haven't made it through. And it's great to see that, I think that this sport is one of those ones that works. If you take the proper precautions, it's a little easier than soccer or some of those other sports to keep distanced. And I also like the idea of the defibrillator working with the ski patrol, because I do happen to know through my former career that there's a whole bunch of defibrillators sitting up at top of one of those mountains that don't do anything all summer long. And sharing resources is the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, our goal is to cost you as little money as possible.
Yeah.
Okay, that's our first. I mean, we're mostly retired, and that usually goes with that. You're cheap.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at, we got the nets, we got paddles, we got first aid, we got all the stuff donated. Okay. I mean, I have no problem asking, begging, whatever. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, good job. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. We have our
Thank you, Council.
Our youth councillors are at their inaugural meeting tonight. Cassidy Gunn and Caitlin Fleming. If you have any questions for the delegator, you could come to the microphone and ask. They're trying to get youth your age to play. Don't run away, Robert. There might be some questions for you. Cassidy or Caitlin, do you want to come to the podium? Come to the podium. Or both of you. You have to come in a set.
It was a great presentation. I really liked how we got lots of positivity out there during this time of COVID. Yeah, I feel like introducing it into the schools is definitely something we can bring forward, and I think it's a great idea just to get the youth involved and something that brings a lot of positivity. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. Any questions, Bob?
I just want to talk item. Pickleball fits on a badminton court. Same dimensions. You just need one additional line on either side called the non-volley zone line, which is 6 inches further out. That would make it a regulation for pickleball. So it's a very easy thing to fix. And so with the new middle school, high school going over here with the gym, when they put it in badminton courts, we can have some sort of input in terms of putting in these few lines. George Eliot doesn't have them, so playing pickleball over there it's close, but it's not quite the same thing, you know what I mean?
No. Okay, thank you, and thank you, ladies, for coming up. Great,
Thank you.
okay. All right. Bylaws, we got any? No. Public comment, anybody in the gallery that isn't connected? Have anything to, second time of asking? Third, Counselor, or no?
I have some, Teresa on the line who'd like to speak at public comment.
All right. You got her?
1 second, just a minute. Teresa, are you there? No. Oh, sorry.
No censure.
Teresa, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Okay, you can go ahead, please.
I do have a question.
Okay.
The question pertains to the interclub play. Since it's a residential area, can you hear me? Hello?
Bouncing around.
Yes, we
Can you hear me?
Teresa, are
Yes.
you on the line?
Could you turn off
Yes, I'm on the line.
your computer speakers? Or turn them down?
Okay.
That's better.
All right. Since the pickleball courts are in the benchlands, which is a residential area, parking is a big issue. Right, currently, the cars either park on the road or across the street at the vacant lands where the condominium will eventually take place. So when you're talking about interplay with other clubs, where's everybody going to park?
Good point.
This is the residential area. I live in a Lake Stone community. I drive by 6 days a week and the cars are parked everywhere. Very frustrating. I didn't buy into Lake Stone for that reason. Also, if you have it in pickleball in the evenings, it's going to be more traffic. Lastly, you use the courts for the extra courts, the basketball and the hockey. When the kids are finished school during the day, where are they going to play? Because the pickleball association is taking over. So there's a few concerns that I have as a living member of Lakestone.
Okay, thank you very much. Those are noted and they will be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to address council? Anybody else online, willing? Second time of asking? Third time of asking? Hearing none, we'll move on then to development applications with public comment. Good evening, Paul.
Good evening, Your Worship.
Hey, guys.
So before beginning the presentation, the applicant is available and has provided a presentation of their own to after staff's presentation this evening, and that would be available for questions of council. Additionally, Your Worship, council has received any correspondence from the public as it relates to public notifications of within 50 meters of the proposal. This evening, we're dealing with DVP 2020-004 Moncrief. The zoning is RR3, Rural Residential 3. The official community plan has a future land use designation of rural residential. The address for the proposal is 16228 Cars Landing Road. And this is a development variance, and specifically to reduce the south side yard setback for the addition of a garage bay onto an existing attached garage. So the subject property here, as noted, is 0.19 hectares, equivalent to approximately half an acre. This is an aerial just showing the property, landscaping here, driveway, and we'll get into this in a bit, but the proposals in and around this area here. Google Earth is a little bit behind the times apparently, which Google is supposed to know everything. But you can see here, this is pre-development phase and the landscaping hasn't even taken place yet. But we do like to provide these for context. So the area of variance as requested is for zoning bylaw, specifically section 14.3.6 for the side yard setback, specifically the south side yard setback. And they're requesting a reduction from 3 meters to 2.17 meters. So under a meter. Here's the site photos that were taken yesterday. So this is facing southwest. Where's my cursor here? Facing southwest. This is heading down the driveway. This is on the driveway, directly adjacent to the proposal, extension of the garage into this area here. This is a close-up just showing that there's a rock wall here next to the neighbor. And this is just showing the side of the house. So essentially what the applicant is proposing is instead of jogging this wall in to meet the bylaw for just under a meter and extending this wall outwards this way, just to keep it uniform with the outer wall. So the background, the applicant was granted an exemption to the natural environment and greenhouse gas reduction development permit areas. The applicant applied for development variance and it was submitted on February 14th and was considered complete on April 10th, 2020. So the applicant has noted that they wish to avoid a jog at the side of the building to meet the zoning regulations. They feel like it'd be more aesthetically pleasing in that way and would show that the addition was more uniform with what existed previously. The existing building is legal non-conforming in respect to the side yard setback, as it was constructed under a previous zoning bylaw, and at that time, under that bylaw, the side yard setback was 1.5 meters. The applicant has noted that they have the support of their neighbors for the request. As noted, council has received any correspondence as per the surrounding property owner letters. And the area being proposed is currently disturbed and currently provides additional parking for the site, with or without the garage extension. The CAO's comments in relation to the file. I'm not sure that the reason provided by the applicant constitutes a hardship supported technically by scientific evidence. It seems more like an aesthetic request. Although this may be considered a minor variance, I cannot recommend council's approval. However, council has full decision-making authority over variances. Therefore, your worship, as option A, that the development variance permit for the subject property be approved, varying the zoning bylaw to allow for a reduction in the south side yard setback from 3 meters to 2.17 meters. And alternatively, option B is that the variance for the subject property be denied. Thank you, your worship. That concludes my presentation. The applicant is here and we do have a presentation loaded for Mr. Moncrief.
Okay.
He's going to share his screen.
Yeah, I can share it.
Thank you, your worship.
Thank you. We'll hear from the applicant.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, Ken.
Hi. Yeah, actually, the previous presentation was pretty much the whole thing. We just wanted to, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Here, start the slideshow. He's covered most of it already. Like he said, we're just trying to keep the same back of the garages that we had before, and he showed you the drawing that we had made. The new garage would be like this. The old garage was the two here, and we just want to add a additional one on. If we don't get the setback, we'd have to go back another 2 feet, and that really wouldn't do. So we'd have to, it wouldn't do for the car that I want to put in there. So we'd have to make it a larger garage, a double garage, and we'd have to park it diagonally. So we really don't want to do. Also, the roof line would be a little strange in the back. You don't see it here, but if it jogs out in the back, then the roof line would have to move up a little bit, and it would be fine. It would just look a little strange from the back. This is the existing garage. Right here is where we're planning on adding the new one. That's pretty much it. He covered the rest of it. I also showed the pictures of the rest of it as well.
Any questions for the applicant? Councillor Scarrow?
Hi, thanks very much for being on our screen. Appreciate you being available to offer questions and answers.
No problem.
You mentioned in your presentation, or at least our planner did, that you had the support of your neighbor, and yet I'm holding a letter from the neighbor to your south who suggests he does not support this.
Oh, okay. I don't think he has a problem with the setback on it. I think he'd rather I didn't build another garage there.
A third garage, he says, it could be put in other places, and he feels that the encroaching on the side yard setback would devalue his home based on a real estate assessment, a real estate agent's assessment.
Okay, well, I wasn't under the impression. I talked to him earlier on in the year. I can still build another garage there. I just can't build it in the setback.
Well, I just wanted to bring that to
Yeah.
your attention. We've received this letter, I believe today,
Okay.
and not in support.
Okay. No, that's fair enough.
So where is the view impeded?
Oh, it's on the other house. Can't see
No. I don't understand it, but
Pardon me?
that's all. I was looking at the photo that was up. I didn't get a chance to get out to the property to have a look, and I couldn't see where a view was being impeded, but
Oh, well, I can show you. This is the neighbor's home.
mm-hmm.
He has a patio in behind this wall,
Yes.
and here's where we'd like to put the garage.
Okay.
It's not a view. It's not a view of anything. It's a view of our patio, of our well, of nothing really.
And our planner indicates that it would not have, when it was built, it could have been built previously to that setback, but this is, the zoning has changed. Setbacks have changed in that zone for when it, yeah, so, okay, that was unclear to me. Councillor Gamble, you had a comment?
Yes, thanks. I did go out there and I didn't actually walk around the back or anything, but just looking at the pictures here, I'm wondering about the rock wall. Is that your rock wall or is it the neighbors?
No, it's the neighbors.
It's the neighbors.
Yeah, it sits about 6 inches off the property line.
Mm-hmm. And the reality is that you are able to build a garage in this spot. It's just that you would be approximately 2 feet further to the north. Is that right? At the back?
Yeah, I can still build there's plenty of building envelope. I can still build a garage.
Yes.
We just have to jog out a little bit.
Right. Okay.
I would likely build a larger garage because if I wasn't able to get the setback changed, the garage would be quite a bit more shallow, so I'd have to park diagonally in the garage. So I'd likely put a double garage there, right there. So instead of one more door there, it would likely go out further into where this rock wall is.
Yeah.
And I'd build a double. We would just drive in sideways every time.
Right, right.
Okay. Any other questions from council? Anybody in the gallery? Oh, Councillor Arlen?
Yeah, thank you. So you're saying that if you didn't get the variance, that you would increase the size of the garage?
Well, that's the idea. Right now, if I get the variance, I have another 2 feet, roughly 2 feet, and the vehicle would fit in there. If I don't get it, I'll jog back to the 3-meter line and build I guess a 12-foot garage, like a double garage. So yeah, the garage actually would be bigger if I don't get the variance. I don't really want that though. There's a little garden over here that I like on this side, and there's no real reason for it. But I won't be able to park in there. The garage won't be of any use to me if it's short. Let me show you here. See the way I'd like it to be is this garage, this particular one is shorter than this long one here. And for the roof line to look nice, I want to cut back there, right? Right. If I could show you a little bit better, see how the roof line would come over this area here, right? So I need to go back in with this garage. This is a 10-foot garage. These ones are 9. If we can't get the setback, we'll just move this one out to a double. And it'll look the same from the front, except this door will be larger. But on the back, it'll cut in here, and then the roof line would kind of jog over a little bit. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, we can still do it. It just will look a little silly from the back, and this garage would be a little larger.
Councillor Reid?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Would it be possible to go back to the slide before this that just shows the garage depths? Because
that one?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. And so the door, okay, it's showing the door opening. So you can't use the middle car garage for the larger car because it seems to be longer than the other two.
It's a boat, yeah.
And I mean, I suppose, could you not, looking at it aesthetically, you've got some juts there going from left to right, jut up, and then your third one would follow that same pattern. I know the roof line would be unusual, but it would follow the same ground placement.
Sorry, I'm not following that. Can you do that one again?
You jog up on each garage as you get from the left there.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I could make this one out
further.
further.
That's it. So
Yeah, I thought about that. But if you look at the line here, I'd have to replace all of that. Yeah, I thought about that. It would just grow sort of, each garage would progressively get closer. I did think of that actually, but this is the problem here. And the roof line's the problem as well. Right. This roof line wouldn't work on there. Would have to come out. So it would be like this portion of it would move 2 feet to the north. I'm not sure if they can do that actually. I would imagine they can, but.
I suppose I do agree with the CAO's comments that this is an aesthetic look for the garage really, and I suppose to disadvantage the neighbour by moving the setback nearer by 28%. I mean, I know it's only 2 feet in terms of actual measurements, but when we're talking about setbacks, we need to consider the percentage of change, not necessarily the linear, just the linear amount on the ground. So it's bringing things closer to him in this current issuance of how we manage our setbacks. Obviously, everything that's been built before then is legal non-conforming, and that's fine. But I suppose I'm just struggling to disadvantage the neighbour. But I see the issue that you're presenting aesthetically from the front of the garage, for sure.
Okay, thank you. Anybody from the gallery wish to address council with regard to this variance? Second time of asking? Third time of asking? The planning department says recommendation to approve.
Your wish, actually, there are two recommendations there. One is to approve, the other one, two options. One is to approve, the other one is to deny.
Preferred option is approved. You moving it, Councillor Scott? To prefer? Approve? Okay. Anybody move? Either option, you can move A or B.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move
Yeah.
option B.
Move B. A seconder? Councillor McKenzie second. The option that the development variance be denied. Those in favor of denial? Those opposed? Those, or discussion? Yeah. Some discussion on denial.
Okay.
Councillor Koza.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we all know, I'm always a little bit apprehensive about variances because I feel that we have made an OCP and we want to follow our guidelines. But in this one, if this would have been built originally as a third garage, that wall would have been there as it would have been. And now that it's this many years later and the bylaws have changed from what they were originally, I'm on the fence on this, but I really don't have any problem with it and I would support it. I'm leaning more towards supporting it because I feel it's not an egregious thing. There's no sight lines, there's no encroachment or anything like that. And like he says, if we don't allow this variance to go through, he's just going to make a bigger garage, which if there is any issue of sight lines or anything, bigger is going to be more intrusive. So I say give the variance and go with the size is where I would be more apt to push.
Thank you, Councillor Koza. Councillor Aaron.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I wish that the neighbor was here because you'd like to give him the option. But if it was me and I was the neighbor and I already didn't like the garage as it is, and I didn't like the fact there's going to be a third garage, and I'm totally with the neighbor. If we were voting to approve this project as a whole, which we are not, but if we were, I'd be voting against it 100%. But I think that the net gain for the neighbor is to approve the variance, as long as if there's a way that we can ensure that this garage gets built as a 10-foot garage and not a 12-foot garage. I don't know if that's a possibility, but
sorry, may I speak? It's Darren again.
I'd like to finish. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Wait, no, I have a motion on the floor. I need council permission to hear anybody else, but I want to hear from council first.
Yeah, that was more directed towards staff. I don't know if there's any way we could covenant that this garage be 10 feet if we approve this variance. Again, I'm not keen on it, but also, besides the fact that it actually will limit the trouble for the neighbor, it actually also saves a little bit of concrete and a tiny little bit of environment, because 12 foot long by 20 foot, 2 foot by 20 foot is a whole lot different than 2 foot by 10 foot. So, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about extending 2 feet along the width of the garage, which is 10 feet, or extending 2 feet out on the length of the garage. So it's half the environmental impact, even though that might be tiny. I would take any smaller impact any day.
Okay, thank you.
Through your worship, and just answering your question, so council cannot impose conditions as part of a development variance permit. However, the applicant, if they so wished, under their own accord, could enter into a restrictive 219 covenant. That would be completely up to the applicant, and it would have to be voluntary.
Okay,
Thank you, your worship.
Councillor Reid?
Yeah, I really do wish that the neighbour was here. And I suppose my alternative is to defer and allow the neighbours to have that discussion and come back with an agreement. To me, I would suggest that as a preferred solution, given the current neighbours' view on it. It would be nice if it could be resolved between the two parties as to what would be the best option, and maybe seeing whether there can be some sort of understanding as to, well, it's this or that. And I don't know whether that double garage idea has been floated with the neighbour. So that would be my ideal, but I hear what Councillor Arlen and Councillor Codas have to say, and I'm certainly on that side of the garage fence at the moment.
Councillor Scarrow?
I just wanted to explain my reasoning for not being in this, on board in this variance, or any variance where the person who's most affected by it has such apparent objection. As I've said before in council, variances are to fit little adjustments into neighborhoods that don't cause disruption. So I'm not going to die on the hill here. I'm not going to support this variance, but I have no problems with those that do. All of those that do support this variance have brought up very good reasons, and I don't deny them that.
Okay, thank you. I need a motion to hear from.
I have had my hand up for a while, James.
Sorry, Council. I didn't hear you and I didn't see you.
Yeah, I've been waving.
Now you can speak.
Okay, thanks. So I am supporting the motion only because I believe that in this, I mean, I'm very sympathetic to Mr. Moncrief, but I think, you know, he did say that, you know, there is a possibility of bringing that forward, and he's going to have to redo a lot of the roof line in any case, regardless, just with adding that additional bay. The neighbor is concerned about it, and it's possible he could bring his addition forward a little bit. There's plenty of room, and still make an attractive addition. So I think, you know, I feel that it's not necessary to have that because, I mean, there's going to be a lot of change with the roof line in any case. And I think he could still achieve the same size of garage that he wants.
Okay, I have Councillor McKenzie. Did you?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this one here, you know, after looking at it and being walking around the house and looking at the amount of room you have there, I was in support of it because I don't see any view thing here. So until the neighbor came up and said that he is not in support, I was going to approve this one. So I just, it would be nice to work something out, but at the same time, I think that's, we're just being asked to either approve this variance or not. So I think from the neighbor's viewpoint, like he said, it's better if that's in a straight line, because from his side, as the pictures he's provided us, it would look cleaner and look better from that side. So I think I am in support of this at this point, unless somebody says something to suggest different.
Thank you.
Your worship.
Support.
Your worship.
The motion? Okay.
Your worship. I just want to make sure that, you know, we have a motion on the table.
Yes.
Although staff has two options on the report, in the report, council can still decide a third alternative or something different. So I just want to make sure that we, throughout the discussion, we can come up with some other ideas as well.
Okay, thank you. I have Councillor Ireland.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would be, I do like Councillor Reed's thought of maybe deferring so we could speak to the neighbor. But I'm pretty sure that I would rather have 2 feet less than have 2 feet more towards me, because the essential thing is blocking his view. And that's what he's concerned about. And irregardless, it's going to block the view. If it's 2 feet shorter, it will block the view less. And if it's 2 feet shorter, it will be a better gain for the environment, because, I mean, this whole thing's a waste of environmental resources, but it totally is. But it will use a lot less resources to do that. The alterations to the roof, if it's straight, will be minor compared to the alterations to the roof if it's jogged over. So there's no gain there. And, you know, this is kind of a neighbor thing now. And so I'm voting in favor of the environment and not either one of the neighbors, unless somebody wants to put forward the motion. So hold on. The one thing I would like to say is if the only way I will support it though is if there's a voluntary move to the 219. Is that what? Yeah, the 219. If that's the case, otherwise I would defer it, but I would not vote.
Okay,
To
I
council.
need a motion to, well, I suppose the applicant has the right to speak anyway, do they, or do I need there's a motion on the floor.
There is a motion on the floor, so if you want to hear from the applicant or anybody from the public, you need another motion to do so.
Okay, the motion to hear from the applicant, Councillor Reed, Councillor Scarrow, those in favor? All right, are you there, the applicant?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
You've heard the discussion of staff, and there are some consider the variance as less detrimental to the environment. Some consider it detrimental to the neighbor's view and are not in full support of the variance. And our chief administrative officer says really variances are to deal with hardship. But they can be a part of economy and environment as well. So Board of Variance usually deals only with hardship. And we're not a Board of Variance, we're council. So if you've heard about a covenant, which we can't impose, but if you're in favor of building at only 10 feet, not 12 feet, then that would be an issue. Or that.
Yeah. No, we plan on building as per the drawing that I showed you.
Right.
Yeah, there's no issue there. We're planning on building exactly what I was presenting.
Okay. I'm not sure if that satisfies the planner or the councillor. Planner?
Your worship, in conference with the manager of planning, perhaps another option available to the council would be that we attach the site plan to the variance, and that the site plan in accordance with the variance permit be approved, thereby restricting the size of the garage. It would be an easier and less clumsy way than to do a restrictive covenant, which could create some legal bills for the applicant as well as some time. So
okay.
that would be an alternative approach.
I like that. I won't.
So you need to dispose of the current motion somewhat.
We defeat the first motion?
Yeah.
Those in favor of option B? Those opposed to option B?
Okay,
And somebody will provide option C, which is that,
Thank you, Your Worship. So option C would essentially be a hybrid of option A with an additional clause. And further that the site plan for the garage be attached to the development variance permit. Essentially, yeah, that should do it right there, because we'll attach the site plan with the picture of the garage and it'll form a portion of the development variance permit, Your Worship.
yes, that's the substance of the motion, your worship, then we'll massage it obviously for the minutes. But I think that's exactly the essence of the motion.
thank you. Moving it is Councillor Ireland and Councillor Kozub, and those in favor. Opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I believe
Thank you.
Councilor Scarr is opposed.
Councillor Scarrow is opposed. And who?
Councilor Gamble.
Councillor Gamble. Thought she was in favor, but that's all right. All right, thank you. Motion carries. Thank you, Paul. That was good.
Oh, sorry, I'm out of control. You're in control, I'm out of control.
Next one up. Okay, guys. Back to council here. Yeah, but you're not paying attention. Paul's trying to talk. And they're choking him up.
It's the mask, Your Worship. You can tell?
That's something else.
I just love being here.
The next one.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just loading the presentations. So, for Your Worship, again, the applicant does want to give a presentation after the staff presentation. So the developer is online to do that. And as well, council has received the correspondence as it relates to the 50-meter surrounding property owner mailouts that we do as part of all variances. So the file number this evening, this is Lakestone. This is the multi-unit site there, as everyone is aware, and has been noted numerous times this evening. DVP 2020-018. This is Dominion Incorporated, is the developer. The zoning currently is DC3, Direct Control 3, Lakestone. It does have a future land use designation of urban residential. The address for the property is 9652 Benchland Drive. And the subject this evening is a development variance, specifically to vary the height of the buildings from 4 stories to 6 stories. And even more specifically, in relation to the actual height, which is from 16.5 meters to 18 meters, a difference of 1.5 meters. The subject property here, as you will see, is kind of the center of the Benchlands development, as you can see. So kind of like a highlight of the Lakestone Master Plan, and hence the reason for the multi-unit site being proposed there. 0.774 hectares is the size of the site, which is equivalent to just under 2 acres. This is an aerial just showing the servicing of the site as it related to the subdivision. And as you are all aware after the presentation, the pickleball courts are right across the street in this area here. So the area variance this evening is, as noted, 16.5 meters or 4 stories to 18 meters or 6 stories. I think, to be very clear, stories is somewhat misleading. We're really looking at a height difference of 1.5 meters, which is just under 5 feet, as you could get 4 stories with higher level ceilings that approach 16.5 meters, which is, again, quite high. So the applicant has provided some renderings for the site. We've got a lake view from the northwest here, just showing the what that development would look like from the valley bottom. And in fact, as the architect had let me know today, this is actually somewhere out in the lake, looking upwards up the hill. So then we also have the Benchland Drive view. This is the southeast, and specifically this is the north corner. Yeah, there it is. This is Benchland Drive view east, directly through the building, where there is a promenade connecting the two buildings here, but that there is some permeability to the site through the two buildings. This is Benchland Drive view east, and this is the full building rendering. So what we did for council's purview this evening is provide a proposal comparison. So the Lakestone Master Plan in terms of residential units calls for 88 units. The 6-story would be 87, as would the 4-story. It's really a difference in building envelope. Commercial units, the Lakestone Master Plan calls for 600 foot squared. They're proposing 4 to 6 different commercial units at 6,000 foot squared, as opposed to a 4-story building that would be 2 commercial units and would match the master plan at 600. So it's a 10-fold increase in terms of commercial space. Retail commercial frontage, the Lakestone Master Plan does not have a provision for that. At the 6-story, they're talking about 230 feet, whereas a 4-story would be 60 feet. Public outdoor area, sorry for the typo there, Lakestone Master Plan doesn't have anything for that. The 6-story would equate to 7,800 foot squared, whereas the 4-story building would be 1,500 feet squared. Quite a substantial difference. The lot coverage, as per the Lakestone Master Plan, is 40%. The 6-story is 27%, or 67.5% of the max for the site, and the 4-story would be at 39%, and that would be 97.5% of the max. Parking stalls, as proposed by the Lakestone Master Plan, are 149. As part of a 6-story proposal, they would be required to have 175 parking stalls. And as council may be aware, that's in two layers of underground parking. And 4 stories is 160 parking stalls. And I'm assuming here, they haven't shown us plans, but that would also have to be two layers of underground parking to accommodate for that amount of parking. So they have also provided us with facade permeability, or the areas in which there'd be additional viewscape. So Lakestone Master Plan has no provision for that. They, on the 6-story, they're allowing for 19% of the full frontage to be permeable to the viewscape. That is, you could actually look through the site. Whereas on a 4-story, it would be a full facade. There would be 0%. Height in meters or feet, again, is set by the DC3 zone. It is the reason why we're here this evening in terms of a variance request. The height would be 16.5 meters, which is equivalent to 54.13 feet. And in the case of a 4-story, I'm sorry, I reversed this, apparently. But just showing that essentially the difference there is 5 feet. So a little bit shorter than myself. The architect has provided us with some massing comparisons. So here you will see in gray what the existing building is. So this is the one building here. There would be that promenade across, and this is it here. Whereas if they fully build out at the 97.5 on a 4-story building, it would be everything in purple with no breakage in the facade. They've also provided some context in terms of what it would look like to the neighbor to the south. Now, one thing to note, if you look here, is that they're asking for a variance to 6 stories, but they've actually stepped the building down to 5 stories on this side. So a little bit less of an impact. This is a massing aerial, just showing, again, some of the permeability of the site. We've got 4 stories here, and you'll see that they would have to build it out on this corner much closer. And in fact, I have some numbers here for that. So on the south side yard setback, their actual setback is almost double what the minimum would be at 4 meters to 8.57 meters. And at the furthest point, it's actually at 11.11 meter. So quite the difference here. And the reason for that difference is you can see the angular cut here. Additionally, on the north side, from the minimum of 4 meters, it would be down to 10.41 at its nearest, and as far away as 14.48 meters. So I think that they show here exactly what that would produce. It would produce a public plaza next to our park here and additional public space. So there was a question around the elevation change from Tyndall Road and what this may look like. So we did do a Google Earth profile. Actually, I'd like to thank Jamie for teaching me how to do one of these. So you can see here we've provided a cross section from Tyndall Road across to the subject property. And this elevation drawing shows that there's approximately a 9-meter difference in elevation from the road service down to the subject property. Essentially, that would mean that approximately half of the building would be visible from Tyndall Road. So a little bit of background. The Benchlands neighborhood, as envisioned by the Lakestone Master Plan, was issued a development permit, DP 2014-031, addressing wildfire, natural environment, greenhouse gas reduction, and resource conservation. That was issued on March 26th of 2015. The applicant subsequently amended the DP twice, once on December 15th to amend information on stability and erosion, as well as the natural environment, and again on March 8th of 2017 to amend information relating to the natural environment, erosion and stability, and greenhouse gas reduction and energy conservation. Concurrently, the approving officer considered the subdivision for Lakestone Phase 3 of the Benchlands. As you see, it is currently built out. That subdivision was approved by the approving officer on October 13th of 2017 and registered at the Land Title Office under Plan EPP 74823. As a result of the subdivision review, the approving officer did require a no disturb and no building restrictive covenant, which I'll get to in some pictures forthcoming. And as council is aware, a meeting was held by the new owners on December 10th, 2019, and the applicant presented their concept for the development of a site to council, which included the notion of a change in the height of the building from 4 stories to 6 stories, 16.5 meters to 18 meters. Given the development permits issued to date, if council were to support the variance requested, a multi-unit development permit will be presented to council for consideration, and this is in terms of the form and character, thereby having to meet the multi-unit development permit guidelines. So in short, the density for the site is not changing regardless of the variance being proposed. There is still going to be a total of 87 units at the site. It is zoned for that. Therefore, the traffic impact has been envisioned by the Lakestone Master Plan. Also, as part of the subdivision, there have been significant servicing requirements for the site as per the subdivision and development servicing bylaw. Zoning requires an amenity of $22 per meter squared above the 3rd floor for fire equipment, given the size of the building. This is set out by both our zoning and the fees bylaw. So in short, that amount is approximately $126,000 to be put into reserves for the purpose of firefighting equipment and appropriated by council through the budgeting process when appropriate. So in other words, it is put into a reserve fund, and when the funds get to an amount that seems worth using, council will be presented through the budgeting process with some options as to what they may wish to purchase. The fire department will also require additional firefighting equipment for a 6-story building. This is estimated to be valued at $23,000. This is in addition to the $126,000, what we call an amenity contribution. The difference in height is just over 5 feet from the 4 stories to the 6 stories. The height difference from Tyndall Road to the site is approximately 9 meters. And as noted, that means that approximately half the building will show from Tyndall Road. Surrounding property owner letters within 50 meters of the proposal have been sent, and all correspondence has been provided to council this evening. Staff has provided 3 options for council consideration, which I will get to. This is one more than what's been forwarded as part of the council report this evening. The CAO's comments. The reasons for the variance are explained in the report and seem acceptable from a technical perspective. This had been discussed with council back on December 10th of 2019. The only concern I have is procedural in nature. I believe that as the Lakestone development is based on a master plan that was approved after a number of council sessions and public consultations, in my view, any changes to the master plan should be addressed through this plan's comprehensive review, which is underway. If council approves this proposal, I strongly suggest that any future variances be deferred until after the Lakestone master plan review is completed and considered by council. Therefore, your worship, we've provided 3 options. Option A is that the development variance permit for the subject property to vary the zoning bylaw from 16.5 meters or 4 stories to 18 meters or 6 stories be approved. Option B, that the variance for the subject property for the height variance be denied. And lastly, that the variance for the subject property be deferred, and that the public and council be given the necessary time to review the additional information as presented for the first time at this council meeting, November 17th, 2020. And further, that it be considered the next regularly scheduled council meeting of council. Thank you, your worship.
Thank you very much.
Your worship, I believe that the applicant has a presentation as well.
Okay, we will hear from the applicant. Yeah. Your questions to the planner? Okay, let me hear you, let the planner hear you.
Thanks for your presentation. If you go back to about your 3rd slide, you talk about the increase in public space from 1,500 to Yapa, whatever it was.
So from out of 4-story proposal, it would be 1,500 feet squared, and it's just about, I'll say about 4 or 5 times that. It's 7,800 foot squared.
Okay, and you refer to that as public outdoor space, yet my understanding is that the public or the outdoor space to the south wouldn't be public.
So I believe the developer is here to answer some of those questions. It is not clear to us what exactly they're purposing as public space, and he'd be best suited to answer that question.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Reid.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, Paul. There's a lot of information in there. Could I ask you to shoot to the slide with the height on it, where it shows that's the one? And so again, I'm not sure on my reading of the plan that the developer has sent through, but those little lines on the height diagram there, they have numbers attached to them. And it's difficult to see here on the screen up there, but that it starts off with the ground level being 1,635 feet. So I'm assuming that's above whatever. And then the top of it, where it has the roof level, says 16,095 feet and nearly 4 inches. So I took one from the other, and I get a height of 62 feet, 4 inches, which is 19 meters. So I'm not, what am I reading wrong?
So through your worship, again, the variance is to 18 meters, so they would be restricted by that no matter what. I cannot speak to their drawings as they were provided by the architect. Again, the developer would be in a much better position to answer that question. However, for council's comfort, if you will, the variance is very specific to 18 meters. And additionally, if council were to approve this variance, there is a development permit forthcoming for form and character, which will also include design drawings. So it would be an additional safeguard for council's benefit.
Okay, I'll wait to hear from the developer, but I am concerned that the drawings that they're sending through, if they are not to 18 meters, if I'm reading it correctly, then I have concerns.
Thank you.
Councillor Gamble has a question online. Councillor Gamble, are you?
Yeah, thank you. And the question I have is there's quite a bit of discussion also raised in letters about the fire service to this property and the need for additional firefighting equipment. There was a figure that you quoted, I believe, in the remarks that it was 23,000 that extra that would be required. Is that on a prorated basis for this particular development, or is that the total cost of the equipment for the community? And maybe Mr. Windsor would be one to comment, I don't know.
I would probably defer that to the fire chief, and I think he's online, so, yeah.
Okay. Did you get that, Steve?
I certainly did. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The equipment that we have in the bylaw gives us the addition of breathing apparatus and hose and fittings. The $23,000 was an estimate that we completed for a developer on Main Street. And we currently do train and practice with mid-rise buildings, this being 6 stories, but 4 stories have the same problems. 6 stories, you just have 2 more additional floors to work with. So that is kind of a standard package. City of Kelowna uses a very similar process, and they do it generally every 6 stories. So if you have a 30-story building, every 6 stories, you will see one of these equipment caches in the building, or is transported if the developer doesn't want to supply an area, then we would transport it as additional equipment when we respond.
Okay, great. Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Sort that out. Anybody else? Oh, question from Councillor Scarrow, if you're there, Chief.
To the fire chief, yeah.
Chief Windsor?
Yeah.
Hey, Steve.
Good evening.
I'm just not sure if I understand our situation correctly at the fire hall. Do we or do we not already have a ladder truck?
Yes.
That is correct. We do have a ladder truck, a 75-foot ladder truck, which will be adequate for 6-story buildings. The original amenities was to put towards a ladder truck, which we did not have when we started building the 4-story buildings. That money then was put in as a general fund that we could draw from at budget time if we needed additional equipment, or ultimately, at the 20-year mark, we would have to replace that aerial truck. And so that money could be utilized for that as well.
Okay, the confusion was probably because we based this report on what we did a few years ago, that it referred to the future purchase of a ladder truck. And I was understanding that we had one.
We certainly do.
Councillor Gamble has Councillor Reid has a question for you, Chief Windsor.
Actually, maybe, or Paul, but just for the avoidance of doubt, the report reads a little confusing on this. When we're talking about the fire department contribution from the developer, my understanding from the presentation that we've just had is it's the 126,000 plus 23 for the equipment.
I apologize for any confusion on that. That is absolutely correct.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
So if I, Mr. Mayor, if I may add one point, the $23,000 is an estimate that we've done. Now, we may not necessarily purchase that equipment. The developer may purchase it with our direction. So it may not be cash money, it may be equipment in place of it.
Very good, thank you. Anybody, no more questions for Councillor Ireland? Question.
Yeah, thanks. Well, we got Steve on the line there. Although he just bugged out.
I'm back.
So it sounds to me, Steve, like there's a plan for a 6-story building, that it doesn't seem too concerning to the fire department, that you have plans and you're able to know what we need should that kind of building be built in our community.
We have it already. Yeah.
Through the mayor, we certainly do have a plan. We train for that type of building. Our firefighters are certified for mid-rise. So we obviously it brings its own challenges, as with a 4-story building brings its own challenges, but the fire department is currently well able to protect those types of buildings.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councillor McKenzie as well has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks, Steve. So not that you may not know the answer to this, but I'm told there's going to be a sprinkler system in here as well. So is that, somebody in staff, is that a Zara question? And somebody
I can probably answer that. Multifamily buildings under the BC Fire Code require sprinklers in the units. There is also a requirement of sprinklers in the parkades. we usually ask the developer for some additional things like standpipes in the stairwells or standpipes in the underground parkades that we can hook actual fire hoses to. And in some cases, there may be sprinkler requirements for the patios, the decks, but they are all in BC Fire Code and under BC Building Code. So the developer, it's not a ability for the developer to vary those things. He has to build them per those two codes.
Okay, and then one other question. If we went with the 4-story and take up more room around this building, is it required to get the fire truck to the back side of a building like this?
Not necessarily the backside. We like to, if we can, get access to two sides of a building. Quite often, if you look at City of Kelowna and certain built-up areas, access, as long as you have very good street access to one side, would work in our situation so that we can get onto the roof or get onto those higher floors and then go through units to fight fires on other parts of the building. So it is not necessary to get all the way around on this particular case.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, let's hear from the applicant. Thank you, Chief Windsor.
Your worship, the applicant is online and they do have a presentation for council.
Okay.
Hi there, just were you going to share that presentation in the planning department, or would you like me to share my screen?
I think it'd be appropriate if you shared your screen. That's probably the easier scenario.
Yeah. Just pretend you're here and state your name because.
Yeah, sorry, my name is Amir Huck. I am the president of Dominium Inc.
Thank you.
I'm new to Microsoft Teams, so I'm going to actually let Reese Leach, who is the lead architect on this project. Maybe Reese, if you wouldn't mind sharing the screen on your side.
Thank you. You were doing the presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
Just give us one moment to sort this out technically. My middle age is showing. Okay. We will. Okay, so I think much of this was covered by the planning department. Thank you everyone for your attention today. I think what I can best do is provide context for the council and the public on the intention behind the project and how we've been approaching it. So we thought we'd start by giving a little bit of a team overview of our company, mainly for the public, since we had previously presented this to council. But we'd also like to just explain a little bit more about why we think this is the right decision to do the height variance versus to keep it at 4 stories. So just a quick overview of our company. We're a significant company with about 200 employees, over 100 million in gross revenue, from a bunch of different industries. And what the reason that that's important is that we have a real design sensibility and innovation sensibility. And just at a personal level, what's behind us doing this is to improve communities, not just to try to maximize the profit out of every project that we do. So it's really important to us, in particular for this project, that the end result is a benefit to the community and is aesthetically beautiful and environmentally responsible. So go to the next slide here, Reese. So just in a quick overview, we've done several different projects, predominantly in the Calgary market. This is our first major project in British Columbia. Although I do reside in, I live in Victoria on Vancouver Island, so I am a BC resident. And as far as the aesthetic that goes with this, if we look into the Integra background, we picked Integra as our architects because we believe they have a beautiful aesthetic, have been able to balance the economic realities of doing projects with finding beautiful solutions within site. And we are together view this as a flagship project for both our development and for Integra and how we're approaching it. And I'll get into this a little bit. We've talked a little bit about the site. The reason that the site, that we feel a real sense of responsibility to the Lakestone development and to this community, is that this site is really literally and figuratively at the center of the Lakestone development. So as someone, when you are driving into the benchlands, this will be the first thing that you see, and it sets the tone for the development. It's also, because of its geographic location, will be the gathering point. And so we've always believed that to best support the community, having a significant retail and commercial space would be a benefit to the community. So the way that we've looked at this is we wanted to have an impressive and bold but not overbearing structure. We wanted to be connected to the surrounding neighborhood, and we wanted there to be, for this to be an intuitive part of the neighborhood experience, and generally wanted a sophisticated and mature design aesthetic, but still keep it friendly and community oriented. So in thinking about the community height variance, what we wanted to make clear, I think there are three main points. The first is that it's a landmark. It's a hub of all of Lakestone. It has this important visual impact, and there's a responsibility that goes with that. There's also the view impact, and we believe there's a moderate to no impact to a small number of potential locations, although we would say that it's negligible when you look at the total height impact. And then for the public amenity, when we talk about the public outdoor space, just to address the question that was raised, we're referring to that plaza that faces the park. So all of the private, there's significant private outdoor space, which is solely for the use of the owners and residents of the building, but there's a public amenity space which is connected to this retail and commercial space that looks onto the park. And so Reese will talk a little bit more about that. So just looking at the site, most of the Lakestone community will not be, the views will not be impacted. The most impacted site in all of Lakestone is actually where the Lakestone Information Center sits. So it will not impact any residents. But if you look up there to 9717, 9723, 9729, they do see the building, although for the most part, the difference, there'd be no view impact between a 4-story and a 6-story building. So as for our view studies, we didn't believe there was any lots that would be impacted beyond those. The ones that are higher up have a clear the top of the property, whether it's the 4-story or the 6-story unit. Getting into the amenities, we talked about, we really want to make this building something special. So the units are the amenities of the building. It's going to have an exceptional pool with a hot tub overlooking the lake. There'll be fitness facilities. There'll be a concierge and host service at the building. We'll also there'll be short-term rentals allowed within the building. They'll be tightly controlled, but we know that there's a desire in the area to have to promote rentals and tourism within the area. So this building would provide a hub for that. And then there'll be a sustainability orientation throughout this. I've mentioned all of that not because it's related to the variance, but more just to give you the intent of what we're trying to accomplish here. And then on the commercial side, we intend with the roughly 6,000 square feet to have tenants and or owners within those that would be local business owners. So imagine a boutique grocer, a restaurant or wine bar that would be overlooking the lake, and then potentially a wellness spa or beautician. So these could be local amenities that would keep people within the community, that would enhance the experience, and then that public plaza would be connected there. So you could imagine someone grabbing a coffee from the grocer or restaurant and sitting out there looking onto the park with their dogs, etc. There's underground parking. We've exceeded the requirements for the underground parking, so the intention would be that we would hopefully alleviate some of the parking excess from the pickleball tournaments that are happening. This gives you a sense of the site. And you can see on the left of the diagram here, which faces to the north, that's that public plaza that we're talking about, and that's when we were talking about the 7,500 square feet of space. That's what we're referring to there, as opposed to a much smaller space if we end up having to go to the perimeters of the setbacks. So when we talk about permeability, just in terms of the visual impact, it's all of these areas that you can see through, like the distance from the setback here, from here, and through the building. And so I'll let Reese walk you through this site plan as well as some of the renderings, so you get a sense of what the intention is here and what the impact of the variance would be.
Okay, thanks very much, Amir, and good evening.
I have a couple of councillors had questions, I presume, for the first speaker.
Yes.
Okay, if you'll take
Sure.
those, then we'll get on to the next. Councillor Scarrow.
Hi, thank you very much for your presentation, and I appreciate you being available to us. I'll make my questions rather quick. When I walked the site today, I noticed that there's some mature pine and lodgepole trees that kind of skirt the edge of the lift there. And I wonder what the future for those trees would be, considering the fact that one of these things our councillors have showed concern with, and I share, is the viewscape from the lake. And I can understand that development would probably require some of those trees be removed, but I'm asking if there is an opportunity for some of them to be saved. My second question you addressed already with the South Public Space. The parking for the pickleball is not your problem, but it will exist because they park everywhere, I agree, and they will affect your residents and tenants of that building. So I wonder if there's an opportunity for you to do something on the other side of that road or in conjunction with your developer to kind of alleviate that. I have two other small questions. Is this a wood building or a steel building? And what are the eventual costs of these units?
Okay, hopefully I will do justice to your question. So as far as the parking goes, the reason I mentioned that is with the increased commercial space we've allotted for additional that we were required, and also allotted additional parking spaces for retail that would be accessible to the public. So there is actually public parking available within the building. I'm not sure what else could be done across the street as far as additional parking, but we'd be happy to explore that. The ultimate unit cost, we have actually not finalized pricing. We have pricing ranges yet, so we're still in working together with the sales team to figure all of that out based upon it's actually we've had trouble getting to the exact pricing because it's such a unique site. So within all of Lakestone, this is the only true multifamily that exists, and so that's also part of the reason why we feel such a responsibility to do it well, and to make it something that we're proud of and that the community is proud of. I hope I answered your question. The trees. Sorry, the trees. Reese, you'd have to speak to the trees because I'm not sure. I know we have a tree plan on here. The directive to the team, to our landscaping team was to preserve as many of the trees as possible for all the reasons you've cited. So I'm not sure the exact count of the number of trees that we would be losing as part of this.
Yeah, I can probably add to that, Amir. We obviously, as you can see on this site plan here, we actually have a significant no build zone. And the majority, if not almost all trees on the site right now actually exist within that no build zone. And that's actually one of the reasons why that zone was created. It's obviously there to help retain the embankment and obviously to ensure good habitats for local fauna.
Okay, thank you.
My final question was about wood construction or steel and concrete.
Oh, yes.
It will be there will be a concrete podium that will extend to the for the first floor, and then the rest will be wood construction.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks for that presentation. So just to clarify, because I didn't really hear the answer to the public parking question. So if one of your pickleball tournaments happens and we end up with a dozen people wanting to park below in the parking, will that be allowed?
We would have to set the actual rules on that. I was saying that a little bit tongue in cheek when I mentioned it. But if you imagine this happening after hours, Reese, how many parking spaces are there designated specifically for for the retail and commercial
14.
space? 14. So there's 14 spaces down there. So it would depend on, we anticipate that most of the traffic, the way this is being designed is that most of the commercial visitors and customers would be foot traffic or bicycle traffic. We're providing a lot of bicycle parking as well. So I actually imagine that a lot of those parking spaces underground will go unused. So we would probably be fairly lax on the enforcement around those, provided that there wasn't actually a strain on the parking but the parking needs for the businesses that are within there. But I mean, we would want to work this out with the community, and assuming that the pickleball doesn't become too popular, it would be hopefully a transient problem. But I will offer that we will pick up the defibrillator, just since it's right in our purview. I don't think we wouldn't want anyone. Hopefully, no one needs it, but we wouldn't want that to be happening right across the street from us. So we would take care of the cost for that.
Thank you.
Thanks. Oh, no, wait. Yeah.
Second.
So I don't mean to be pandering to the pickleball community. I just wanted to offer the support to the community.
The other thing that we had talked about before was the potential of some conference space in that building. So judging by what I've heard so far, I haven't really heard that there is any available in there. Can you maybe comment on that?
Actually, we actually did take that comment to heart. So we have so there's two things there. Number one, the restaurant space, which is this what you're seeing here is the ground floor. So this area here is the restaurant space where there would be some. The intention would be that tenant would have a leasable area and a private area. So depending on how big of a conference you wanted, but imagine for a 6 to 12 person gathering, that would be fine. There's also within the amenity space within the building, which is just a little bit north in the lobby. Rather than having a big elaborate gym, we actually polled some of the potential customers, and they wanted to have some flex space that could be used for rented for gatherings. So that's right now intended to be for the use of the building. So it would just depend on how the strata within the building did their rules as to whether they would allow outside community members to use those facilities.
Okay, thank you.
And Councillor Scarrow? Yeah, there's more presentation.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask one question. Some of the people in some of the letters that we've talked about have offered an opportunity or asked for an opportunity for public input because you're under a direct control area. To change it, some people feel that a public input is required. I would like to know how you feel about that.
I have to admit, I'm not. Reese, can you help me out here with what the implications are of that? I actually don't know what the implications are.
From a procedure,
from the administrator.
Yeah, from a procedure perspective, this is a variance. So it is open for input from the public. Now, whether or not the notification was in time for the public to be aware of this and to actually be prepared to come and express their options or opinions, I cannot say. But this is open to the public for public input.
And just one additional point. I cannot recall the exact date, although I could produce it. We did hold a public hearing, or a public community meeting where we invited members of the public to comment, and this was a number of months ago. It was, I think, at the beginning. It must have been in around April. I'm going to ask my team, Misha, if you could text me that date, I can be precise on that. And we had about 20 members from the community attend and answer questions, and we did some polling of them, and we incorporated their feedback and made adjustments to our designs accordingly.
Councillor Reid had a question.
Thank you for the presentation. Yeah, I was at that open house, so I was aware of what was presented. So my question, I discussed it with the planner, and he'd mentioned that you guys might be the best person to ask. So can you confirm the height of the building? Because the documents that you sent over this morning have a different height to the height that our planner has on the presentation.
The height of the building, and so I'm not sure whether this was an error in our submission or an error that happened subsequently, but our drawings are at 19.2 meters from average grade.
Right, so we are at 19.2 meters, not 18 meters. So the variance that we're asking for is 19.2, not 18.
That's correct, and what I'm not certain about is whether we made a clerical error in our paperwork, which I don't believe we did, but it's possible that this ended up being quite accelerated, I think, on the planning side. So it's possible that there was an error made there, but the building is 19.2 meters from average grade.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I do have a couple more questions. One is, you've mentioned that I think we do need to discuss this procedurally though, because that's not what has gone in the documentation and out to the public. You've mentioned that there was a couple of properties that are going to be negatively impacted by the increase in height that we're now looking at higher than 19 meters. Have your team reached out to them? Were they involved in this process in any way, shape or form with the variance?
We did in the form of the community outreach for that community meeting, not explicitly and specifically for the variance, but we've definitely openly solicited feedback.
But at that community meeting, the height wasn't mentioned. It was just the kind of the glitzy photographs and the.
We did mention during that meeting that we was going to be a six-story building instead of a 4-story. So it wasn't the specifics of the exact height. So and just to be specific, the specific units that are possibly impacted are the one we believe, just based on our own calculations, would not have their views impacted, their lake views impacted because they would be below the 4-story height regardless. So the increase in height would not impact their view. But that just I wanted to be very, very specific to answer your question. Did I answer it?
Yes, yes, I think so. Yes, I have to say I'm really disappointed with the quality of the information that was presented to the council at the time and the public at the time of the report. I know council had asked twice for views from the lake. I know it was asked for at the public house, the open house meeting. So it was just a disappointment not to get this information in time to include it in the package that the public saw, because I think a lot of the questions that we're seeing raised by the community have been addressed with this subsequent information, but it's just disappointing that it wasn't available for the community to see in time for this meeting.
Okay, I have Jamie, planning department at the time. Are you there, Jamie?
Yeah, thank you very much, Your Worship, members of council and public watching. I just wanted to add a brief comment. I did check the Zoom open house was held on June 11th at 5 p.m. For the public. Our senior planner did attend, but it was largely a community-driven event run by the applicant. And with respect to the development application notifications, those were done per council's bylaws and notifications, so we followed the typical practice. However, I do wish to put it out there to council that if council were to wish for subsequent information that we're seeing tonight following the drafting of the report to be reconsolidated and re-advertised, we could certainly look at that and bring that back to council at another time for consideration. However, this is a variance and does, as mentioned by the Chief Administrative Officer, does require public input. So there's the opportunity here this evening for people to phone in or attend in public or submit letters as council has received. So just wanted to add some general comments there in terms of public participation and feedback and process. So thank you.
I didn't mean to imply that in any way the district's report was lacking. It was more the information that was provided to the district by the applicant to go in the report. I think we would have benefited from the information that we're now seeing.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Koza.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. kind of in a way, I wish it was 1992 and I was just finishing my homework and getting in my 4x4 and going to see my friends up at Tyndall Road and having a little bonfire and stuff. But that's the past and it's gone now. And we have what we have. Whether we get a 4-story or a 6-story building will be determined upon how we debate this in council. I'm just lost on a few things that we still have not been given a exact number. In the report, it said 18 meters. Now I think we just found it was 19.2. What is the actual number? The other thing that is kind of lost on me is that if it's a 4-story building to a 6-story building is only the difference of 5 feet, yet on the report it shows that each level has 9-foot ceilings. So I don't understand how you can squish 2 stories into 5 feet if each story has a 9-foot ceiling. It's kind of lost on me, and I don't know if it can be explained to me. The other thing that I've been asking for and asked for of staff from you guys was I don't really care about how tall the building is. I want to know what the elevation above sea level to the top of the building is going to be, and I don't know if you can give that to us, but a perfect example of it is here in Lake Country. There was a development down on the lake, and when the Emerald Villains built their development on the lake, they put the grade level higher than what it originally was. So now the building is a lot taller than what actually it should be if it were built at the actual grade. So that is my worry, is that when you guys come in and preload and put in your garage and then re-put it up, what is 18 or 19 or whatever this number is going to be? Where is that going to be? And to add to that as well, I really did not like the rendition of the view from the lakefront. I wanted to see an actual, we were told in the strat session that you guys were going to put a drone in the air and we were going to have an actual picture with an actual rendition, and that's what I want to see. I don't want to see some fancy little photo thing from the bottom of what you think it's going to be, not showing any other buildings. One of the other counselors was just out on the lake the other week, and I asked him if he had perchance taken a picture of it, and he didn't take a picture of it. He took a picture over of Lakestone when he was out there. It was afterwards, and that picture of Lakestone, it depicts California North, and if we continue on this track that we're going, we're just going to be North Kelowna. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there more presentation? Did we get all that you had? We got sideways on it, but
there are a few more slides in there, not which include some additional recent renders that have been completed.
Okay, let's see those.
So good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Reese Leach. I'm from Integra Architecture. I'll skip through some of these things because most of it was covered by Paul very comprehensively, but I might be able to answer a few of the items that were just raised by Council. So as you're aware, this is the rendering from the northeast corner of the building. As I said, I'll just skip through some of these. This is a rendering from the east side of the property, looking between the two buildings. The rendering from the southeast side of the building. So this is where we're stepping the building down from 6 stories to 5 stories to reduce and actually significantly reduce the impact to the adjacent property. These are the renderings from the west side of the property. So this is sitting up in the trees that are existing. You can see here on the left of the image is the large retail restaurant, so suggested restaurant space that has its own patio, and then obviously the private amenity spaces with the pool and fire pit to the right-hand side of the image. Here, this is again from the southwest corner of the property. Looking back at the building, you can again see where we're stepping down the building to the 5th floor, adjacent to the south property line. Again, this image was picked up by Paul and displayed already. So I just want to touch base on this one. Some of the key factors that would be apparent in a 4-story massing. As mentioned by the fire chief, 4 to 6 story buildings are virtually, somewhat the same when approached from the point of view of fire department. However, it is important to note that a building of 4 stories would actually require a floor plate that is too large for the building code and would actually have to be divided by a firewall. This is added complexity when it comes to fighting fires at a building of this size and scale. So it is actually a very, very large footprint. The exposed building frontage of a 4-story building would actually be 260 feet long. So that's extremely long for a building frontage. And that does not include the sections that have been pushed back at the north and south corners to account for some small public plaza and for the parkade entry, and where we've adjusted the building facade for the single family adjacent. The image on the bottom of the page here, you can see that this is the proposed design. It's the reduced 5-story volume on the left, the increased setback, as Paul had described already, to the south and the north, and obviously the significant break between the 2 buildings in the center. Here again, this is an image that Paul had already showed, but I just wanted to point out here that the visual impact diagram on the right there, that is a section through the south property line. That actually shows that a 4-story building hard up against the setback line actually is a larger mass and would actually detract more from that adjacent neighbor than a 5-story building that's set further back from the setback line. So you can see there the red line is the view projection to the 5 stories, and the black line is the view projection to the 4 stories. Again, some of the project stats here, I think I can skip over this as Paul kind of identified those pretty clearly. And then some of the questions, if I just skip back here, I can maybe address some of the questions that were asked. Yes, the building floor to floor is a standard 3 meters. The geodetic height of the top of the 6th floor is 518 meters above sea level. The overall building height, 19.2 meters. And I just want to point out here also that if the building is a 4-story volume, the building can only remain at, obviously the 1st floor elevation of the building is set to 1 elevation. What we've been able to do by breaking this into 2 buildings, we're actually able to lower one of the buildings. So the building to the south is actually lower than the building to the right. That follows, there is actually a slight grade change from north to south. So north being the highest part of the site and the south property line being the lowest part of the site. We're actually able to lower the building more so than what a 4-story would be because of the uniformity of the floor levels in a 4-story volume. So that's a key point to note there, that it's not a clear 2 additional stories, and it's not a clear 2 additional 6 meters or so. It's actually less than that. I think that's probably all, unless you have other questions. I'm happy to answer those.
Anybody have any questions for the applicant? Councillor Arlen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question goes back to the meeting when we discussed the rental opportunities in the building and the concierge. And is there any sort of plan for that, or is that just if enough people opt in, we can do it, or that sort of thing? Has it got a functionality as a small hotel?
It doesn't. It will not directly. I think to classify it as a small hotel would be too much of an overreach. The intention is for there to be, if you think of it as Airbnb plus with a building manager, a concierge, and a greeter who's there. So it does. So it will, and there will be some restrictions. So there'll be in order to lessen the impact on the neighborhood. We don't want to have short-term stays coming in to party at the building for a couple of days. So we'll probably have some kind of restriction, like a 5-day or a 7-day stay requirement to promote tourism to the area. We anticipate that about a third of the buyers who are here will probably would want a third to 40% will want to rent their units out. So if you think about that on an 87 unit building, we're talking about roughly 30 units being being made available for rent. So I guess you could call that a boutique hotel. A boutique, you'd have available the rental space of a boutique hotel, and certainly the amenities of a resort class hotel with the pool and the various pieces there, and depending on the restaurant as well. Did that answer your question?
That works for me. That's, that's what I was expecting. An Airbnb Plus is an Airbnb that's managed and looked after, and that's one of the problems you face in the community, is that there's many Airbnbs that really aren't managed or looked after, and don't have parking, don't have any kind of services. So an Airbnb that's actually managed by someone that's looked after on a regular basis still is probably a net benefit to the community. Thanks.
Councillor Gamble has a question.
Yes, thanks. And very interesting to see the comments that have come forward. My question is regarding the park area. Are we talking about the park that's adjacent to the north? In your diagram that you showed us, there's a green space. Is that not part of your property?
It is not part of our property.
Okay, so on site, have you got any area there for park or green space on your property?
Reese, can you speak to that?
Yeah, sure. So we have a mixed area of hardscape adjacent to the commercial and retail units that offsets the softscape inside the park. And then we also have soft landscaping through to the west of that area, adjacent the retail, adjacent the restaurant area and the outdoor seating areas. There is all softscape in there. And then there is also the 15-meter no disturb zone. So that is all hydroseeded and maintained as natural landscaping there as well. So that is a very significant area of green buffer. And that's, again, one of the benefits of the 6-story over 4-story. A smaller building footprint has allowed us a larger amount of soft landscaping.
Okay, and I mean, 7,800 square feet is what you said was open space.
That's open outdoor hardscape space.
So how much of that is going to be soft landscaping? And of that soft, are we talking shrubs or are we talking trees?
Actually, the soft landscaping is over and above that 75. So that's not even included in that 75. There would be some soft landscaping in shrubs inside that 75, but then there is also an additional exterior area that wouldn't be counted in that number. And that does include significant trees, mature trees, the existing trees that are on the site, and so on.
So how much of the area is going to be covered with pavement? Percentage.
In percentage-wise of the overall site or of the
of that, not including the building. So in other words, of the open space.
Of the open space, I don't have that number on me right at this moment, but I could definitely furnish that with you to you at a later date. Okay,
so my only concern really, after hearing all the discussion, is that the 19.2 meters is taller than what was sent out in the publication. I don't know if the other councillors have that, and I know you've been very forthcoming about it, which is good, but it'd be interesting to see if there's anybody online that has comments or questions. Thanks.
And I will ask if there's anybody online or in the gallery who wish to speak, address this. Do come forward, state your name, and speak to this.
Hi, my name's Paul Watson. I'm a resident of Lakestone, also a builder there. And in the June meeting, when they did it, I watched it, that they have a video of it now. And again, it's my concern, I'm actually stuck between a rock and a hard place on this whole thing because I actually like what they've drawn up. But I happen to own a lot that in the video that I watched around minute 47, he said clearly that no views would be impacted. And around minute 55 in the same video, there became two lots that were questioned, lot 1 and 2 in Highlands, which I happen to own lot 1, or I'm in the process of owning lot 1. It was sold. The people didn't want to keep it because of what was going on, so we're buying it back from them. So when I look at it, and I did try and contact them today. I know I didn't leave them much time to try and get me an answer back, but I was trying to see if there's an elevation view from my lot, because we all know that live here, the bridge view is key. And if this, at 18 meters, I was trying to measure a tree out there and figure it out, and if it's right, it was really close to whether I have a view or don't have a view. And now that it's 19.2, it becomes really questionable. My question to them when I phoned them today was, and a lady did answer, and I just know they didn't have time to get back, but it was, did they have a view shot from those lots? And he did bring it up that there was 2 lots, and even here there's a second time he brought it up, he wasn't quite so definite about, the question whether it would be views or not obstructed from there. So obviously my concern comes to, I'm not against the building or the look of it, but I'm definitely against, my view and my value of my property being decreased by missing out on, the long south view lot of the bridge, which is, affecting my value. So that's what I'm saying. I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. I've been all day, whether you can come and say something, but it's because I'm not opposed to it if I can have proof that that I'm not losing my bridge view. And is that, when it was 18 meters, is that 18 meters the top, or is there chimneys going past that? Or is there going to be a big air conditioning unit stuck on top of it? And if it's that close that I lose my views, then I do have concerns with this. So I don't have any real answers to it. I just expressing my concerns of the heights. And then obviously since this meeting started, the height has gone from 18 to 19.2. So I just, for myself, I would really like to know if, there was no confidence in the video I watched when it talked about specifically those 2 lots. And I just, I'm not against what I see, but I'm against my own values being, dramatically affected on that lot.
Okay, thank you. And I think it's good I think it's incumbent upon the applicants to get in touch with you. So if you've left your
I did leave my number, yeah.
Contacts, that'd be good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do come forward, state your name.
My name's Jeff Stairs. I own the house to the south of this proposed unit there. Same as Paul, I came into this thinking that I'd wanted this to get turned down. Now I'm kind of torn between both because I do like what they've come forward with. Obviously, I want that thing the furthest away from my property line and the lowest possible, but what's to stop them once they get their variance approval to not do the big footprint just with a 6-story on top of that? And instead of, they can't do that? Okay.
Not if we put the plans on the variant.
Okay, so what I've been in contact with Amir a little bit over email, a few back and forth, and my concerns were more towards those where it steps down to the five-story there. All those units out the end all have patios looking south, which is where their view is, their best view towards the bridge. But they're also looking into my backyard, neighbor's backyard, and so on all the way down that road, right? So it's not so much the height of I like the proposal for the 6-story because it's smaller footprint, further away from the property line. There's a walking path there and all that kind of stuff. But I'm more concerned about what they're going to do to make sure that I don't have 88 units looking down into my backyard while my kids are out there playing, right?
Yeah. No. I'm not sure what the answer is. Councillor Ireland has a question.
So here's my question to you. So if they built the 4 stories, which is a whole lot closer to your property than the 6 stories, or the 5 stories on your side, you're still gonna have all these suites a lot closer looking into your backyard, so
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of.
where's your balance?
Well, that's why I'm kind of torn towards it. Like I came in here thinking I didn't want this to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of at the same
I
thing with
mean-
Paul. I'm in between the two because I do like the 6-story one.
With less units,
Yeah, but.
looking at you.
But those 5 units that are big units on that end all have patios that look huge to me, probably 1,000 square foot patios that all of them look right over all of our houses, right? So Amir has sent me a new landscape rendition that had trees down that side, which I liked. I just would hope that if something like along those lines, like the condos are going in no matter what, right? There's nothing I can do about that. There's nothing anybody can do about that. But I just, my property, I got a assessment a year ago on my property, and I got another one about 3 weeks ago, and my property value since that thing has been approved and in talks have gone down almost $100,000.
No, okay. Question for
Just a real quick question, and you said it yourself. This is gonna get built one way or the other. They have the right to do that within the direct control thing. And you would have known that when you purchased your property.
Well, when I purchased my property, it was 2.5 years ago. It was zoned as multifamily. I was under the impression of some kind of like high-end townhouses or something like that, not a 88 unit condo.
Okay, well, the 87 unit condo is coming.
Yeah.
In one shape or the other.
Yes.
And if I'm reading you correctly, if you have to choose the lesser of two evils, sounds to me like you're leaning towards the 6-story. And the other point was those trees that are in front of that development, the developer has promised that in large part, most of them will be retained.
I don't care about the trees on the lake side. I care about the trees going down the left
South
side.
Yeah.
There, south end, but it's gonna be blocking, these people are gonna be looking into everybody's backyard for about 5 or 6 lots down that way until it starts to turn the corner a little bit.
And that's gonna happen regardless of what kind of building they build.
multifamily.
Yeah, it is, but it's gonna be more impact the higher they go, obviously, and if wider they go. I want that building to be as small as possible, but at the same time, I know it's gonna happen, I know it's gonna go in.
So higher and smaller or shorter and wider, that's your choice.
Yeah, and I came to the meeting thinking smaller and wider, and now after seeing their presentation, I'm kind of have doubts in the back of my mind, but it's, it's just, I guess
You're gonna have people looking over you.
Yeah,
It's a tough balance.
Okay.
it is, and I don't expect it
You
to
could have
be,
more units in the 4-1 looking at you than you could in the 5,
yeah.
but in the 5, you've got, if you step back, you've got more opportunity for play.
And Amir
Anyway,
has
let's
sent
not
me an
debate.
email.
Councillor Reid had a question or comment.
My question would be to staff as to where do we stand on this, given the change in height? My understanding is that the application was for the lesser of the two, 18 meters or 6 stories, and we're now looking at 19.2. The reason I ask is we've already had expressions that the Lakestone Master Plan is being reviewed. There seems to be some opportunity for the applicant to reach out to affected homeowners and provide them, certainly for the gentleman in lot 1 there, with some more information with the new height variance, and whether we go at 18 or 19. I just wonder whether we should, what can we consider?
We'll hear from the administrator.
I think the best way to handle this at this point would be probably to defer it to another council meeting. I think the option is there. It was provided by council, to council by staff as option C. Now, as to the timing, obviously, the director of planning and I will talk about the notification process again, and because we're going to start the process all over again, but we'll make sure that we work with the applicant to receive all the information that we need. Obviously, there is the discrepancy there that we need to clarify. The applicant has been very clear that it's a 19.2 height variance that we need to look at, and so that technically, we need to review that as well. So we're not, personally, I guess that's my point of view as a CAO, is that probably it's not prudent to approve a variance with not the right information there. Now, the information has been provided tonight. It may not be sufficient because I think that we need to review it technically and provide some feedback back to council.
Okay.
My question would be the motion that was put before us as a third option, had it come into the next council meeting. I wonder if there is a timeline available for the review of the master plan and then to review this application in line, potentially in line with that.
So we have to, 2 weeks may not be sufficient, obviously, because there are a lot of moving parts that we need to put together. So I would say probably defer until such time that the information is received properly, notification process is completed properly, and that the applicant staff and the community can be satisfied of all the information that we need at that point, and technically that we're comfortable with that. So I wouldn't put a 2-week period there. I would just leave it open. We have an obligation to actually review the DVP because it's a prerogative of the applicant. So we can't just wait for another process to unfold at the same time. But I would say that probably because it's a variance, we need to have a better understanding of the changes and also have an opportunity to review with council.
Yeah, I got it. Hear from Jamie. Do you have him on? Was it Jamie?
I also have a member of the public on the phone that's been waiting who'd like to speak after.
Okay, we'll hear
and Jamie McEwen would also like to speak.
I'll hear from the member. Yes.
Can I just say one more thing? You guys asked me where I stand on that. I know I built a house probably 4 years ago and I had to apply for a variance for the side yard variance. And you guys approved the side yard variance based on certain speculations as far as like a fence be put down the side or shrubs down the side or something like that. Just off the top of my head, I don't know if we could look at something like that they can include a landscape design if it gets approved, if this variance gets approved, so that they can show the landscape design based on the variance approval.
That would be the case, but we have to give enough notice and have the correct numbers so that we know what we're varying and what it is. So that's right. You can sit down. I'll hear from the people online. Thank you.
So, Your Worship, I believe the Director of Planning has some comments, and then there is a member of the public on the line.
Okay, I'll hear, which one's first?
I think that the Director of Planning has some comments on our conversation.
Okay. Member of public waiting on telephone forever. Take them first. Director of Planning can wait.
Can we hold back if that's
And then Councillor Scarrow can wait.
Mr. Tate, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Okay, you can go ahead, please.
Hello. Thank you for taking my call. I appreciate that. I live in lot 36, which is 9702 Benchland, which is very close to where this development is. I'm really disappointed to see the presentation tonight. There's misinformation that's been provided. One of the councillors tonight has clearly uncovered that the height differential is significantly higher than what was submitted and what was presented to the public, both in mail-outs to our homes and also in public postings. There's also been a tremendous amount of vague information coming on the presentation from the builder. And if we're going to ask our council and all of the residents in this area to approve these types of things, we have to be looking at facts and actuals. And in this case, we're seeing a lot of misleading information. one of the most important things that I'd like to point out is that when I did due diligence on purchasing my home last year, which I took possession of on July 30th, is I went to every avenue I could to find out what type of condo was going to be built there. That included all of the Lakestone realtors. That included Lakestone information, building employees, and that included representatives of Lakestone Developments, McDonald Properties. It also included discussing with the town and the District of Lake Country, and everyone was very clear that within the town center, a 6-story condo would be allowed. And I understand that. That makes complete sense to try to spur on development and things in your town. And then outside of the town center, there would only be a maximum 3 to 4-story condominium allowed. And that was marketed to us. My home is located right between all of the Lakestone show homes on Benchland. And it has been always very clear, and was a big part of the reason we purchased, that this building would not exceed 4 stories. And then we see what's happening here, and it's very clear. The developer, in all likelihood, wants to go to 6 stories and increase viewscape, because they will then be able to sell more homes with full lake views and partial lake views. And also, as far as rentals go, those are far more lucrative for full lake view rentals and partial lake view rentals. This has a huge impact on my home, not regarding my lake view, but my view to the left of my backyard. And I will have a huge, massive building looking down on me that far exceeds any of our tree line and eliminates any of the natural view we have. So I'm hoping that council will be very wary of what is being proposed, because we've already seen clearly tonight that they came forward for a variance and presented misinformation on the heights, and one of your councillors was quite astute to catch that, and we can see that. And yet we were all presented as public forums to come forward on this, and they changed the height. It's very interesting. That's one aspect of misinformation that we've seen already tonight, and I wonder how much more misinformation is attached to this application for this variance. And I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And I have Manager of Planning, Director of Planning. Jamie, are you there?
Yes, thank you very much, Your Worship. A few comments with respect to this property and this process. I think in terms of procedural fairness, it certainly would be prudent at this point with the 19.2 versus 18 to defer this decision, re-advertise it, hear from the community, enable the community to see this quite transparently as 19.2 meters or whatever specific amount it does happen to be in the application, and then provide basically a summary of this discussion, the new information that we've received, and then report subsequently. So just building upon our CAO's feedback for you. With respect to the potential to defer this until the master plan is dealt with, I think there may be some unintended consequences with that decision. I do want to raise it for council. I think in terms of just in terms of the master plan process overall, it wouldn't necessarily deal with matters such as height, for example. That would need to be going through a rezoning process. And I think the unintended consequence of a rezoning or a spot rezoning for this property, enabling it to say go to 6 stories with zoning rights, would mean that that would be coupled with the site coverage allowance, and unless council was very explicit. So I think it just opens up a number of complexities that would make this quite a bit more challenging than maybe it needs to be in terms of this process. But I do think that it would be prudent for council to defer this discussion until we can summarize the feedback we've received to date, re-advertise with the 19.2 meters, and then hold another subsequent variance process with council. And we can probably do that in a matter of a couple of council meetings from this point.
Thank you. Do we really need to hash it some more? You want to defer?
I have one comment.
Go ahead, yeah.
I just want to confirm that we've submitted this application on March 20th at 19.2 meters. It has been at 19.2 meters for the entire time that this has been with the city. So I'm not sure how planning presented it as 18 meters, but I'd love to if it can be clarified and just made clear to the public that there was no deception on our part. It's been consistently 19.2 meters from day one.
Okay. Councillor Reid?
One quick question to Jamie. The 18 meters height and 6 stories, is that the variance, is that the zoning that we have in this urban core? Or do we have a higher height in the urban, in Main Street?
Yeah, Your Worship, the council may recall there was a development permit recently approved, and they're working through the technical matters of that right now on a property on Main Street for 6 stories. That is the maximum that can be conceived within the town center, is 6 stories, given certain conditions such as underground parking and so on.
And is the maximum height for those 6 stories?
I'd have to pull up the zoning bylaw. We can definitely prepare that for council subsequently. I would hate to quote you something off the top of my head and have it slightly wrong, but it's 6 stories would be the maximum in there, and it's around that height. In terms of, if council were to move it forward tonight, and we can certainly look into how it became the 18 meters versus 19.2. That certainly seems like an error there. So again, it's important for procedural and public fairness that we re-advertise that and hold it again. But in terms of the, if council were to have approved it tonight, that would only enable it to be 18 meters. Regardless of what the plan says, the resolution would be for 18 meters. So I do want to speak to that in terms of process, but I think it's very important that this is deferred.
Okay, thank you. You're done?
Motion to defer?
Pardon?
Motion to defer?
Motion to defer, Councillor McKenzie?
I'll second it.
Motion to defer, seconded.
I must be on the wrong side of the.
You're after Bill. You're all down the line.
We're all gonna make the motion to defer.
Okay.
I'll just speak.
Yeah. Discussion, motion to defer.
Although I agree with the motion to defer, only because the public has not gotten the right information. I will speak in defense of the developer. He had no hesitation whatsoever in coming forward with it. That was the incorrect height. So I believe that there's no attempt for him to mislead us in any way. I think he was as shocked as any of us were when he's looking at the 18 meter number. So, let's not go with the conspiracy theories out there. He was completely above board, and he was looking at us like, what do you mean 18 meters? It was 19.2. It was always been 19.2.
That's
So
what the application was for. Councillor Scarrow, thank you.
I'm going to support the motion to defer both for the public's input, but also for the developer, because if we did approve an 18 meter variance, then he would have to apply for another one in order to build what his plan says. So he wouldn't get anywhere anyway. So motion to defer.
Defer doesn't usually take discussion, but we've heard it all. Yeah. So those in favor? Okay.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, Paul, an easy one. Yeah, we're not finished yet. Okay, you're up, Paul. You got it? I can get rid of all of these nasty letters.
short council.
Doesn't matter, we got a quorum.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the next item on the agenda this evening is ALR 2020-002 for O'Rourke Family Vineyards Limited. The zoning is A1 Agriculture 1. The future land use designation for the property is agricultural. The address is 2290 Goldie Road. This is a non-farm use to increase food and beverage service areas within the agricultural land reserve. So the location of the property is here. The subject property is 4.03 hectares or just under 10 acres. The aerial here, you'll see, this is actually, our area is good. This is the winery as it exists currently. This is currently under agricultural production, mainly vineyard. We do have an area in here whereby the applicant is growing vegetables, farm to table for the winery. This here, again, Google Earth, a little bit behind the times. This is pre-development and clearly shows what the site looked like prior to the existing winery being there. This is just showing the zoning and the future land use designation. So as you can see, this whole block in here is generally agriculture, and future land use designation for the area generally is also agriculture. So the site plan we have here is, this is the existing area being used for indoor beverage services. So currently it's at 122.6 meters squared. That's below the allowable amount allowed by the ALC, which is 125 meters squared for both indoor and outdoor. So a total of 250 meters squared. So they're slightly under here and they're asking for an increase of 40 meters squared. This would bring the total to 162.6 meters squared. Also here you can see from the drawing that the green, I'll call it aqua color, is the existing used portion area. It's currently 134.1, and they're looking to increase it by 16 meters squared to 150.1. So these are some site photos the other day while at the site, and you can see here they have excavated a little bit and poured some curbing, I'll call it. And so this is facing west, and this is facing east. So council gave approval for a winery, as a background, council gave approval for a winery through a commercial development permit and access permit in 2016. The project was completed through a building permit and given occupancy on November 15th of 2016. The applicant wished to extend the kitchen in 2018 and did not qualify for an exemption due to the cost of the improvements being proposed. Just so council is aware, that's a threshold of $50,000, so they were over that amount, therefore non-exempt. Therefore, the applicant moved forward with an amendment to the development permit to expand the kitchen area, and it was issued in December of 2018. The application for non-farm use to expand food and beverage services on the property was received on April 24th, and it was considered complete on May 25th of 2020. Currently, the indoor food and beverage service, as noted, is 122.6, allowable 125, so slightly under by about 2 meters squared, give or take. Outdoor food and beverage services currently, as they've proposed or shown, is 134.1. That's actually a little bit over the allowable limit by 9 meters squared. So the applicant wishes to expand those as noted, 40 meters for the indoor and 16 meters for the outdoor. That would bring everything completely into compliance. And the applicant has noted to staff that 50% of the primary farm product used in the alcohol production facility has been produced both on site and other farm operations in common ownership. It's at this point I'd like to bring some of the referrals that we received back. So when we send out the referrals, it doesn't necessarily include a wider context, i.e. how much land the applicant owns and how much land has been brought into production. So they feel that on a site-specific basis, as it relates to the Ministry of Agriculture, that the site just isn't large enough to support this expansion request. And Interior Health Authority, I'm not going to read this all out. but in short, it speaks to food security. Specifically, I think we can all relate to some of the climate change effects we're seeing, and probably clear here is that California supplies 40 to 50% of all BC agriculture. And so Interior Health would like to see more food security or these types of things being produced within British Columbia. So if the application is successful with council, the applicant may have to provide proof to the ALC as to whether the farm meets the provisions for an ancillary use based on common ownership. The reason why I say that is because the ALC actually requires a 3-year contract in the legislation. However, they may accept the fact that the owner has numerous farms under common ownerships, and so if the ALC is concerned, that they will let the applicant know. Staff believes that given the situation, the rationale of the applicant is supportable, even though negative referral comments have been received regarding the file from the Ministry of Agriculture and Interior Health. And as noted, I think the key point here is the applicant in total within the last 5 years has put over 112 acres into agricultural production. That is significant, and probably more than any other producer in Lake Country at this point over that time span. The land brought into production is supporting 2 wineries, including promoting farm-to-table dining through an agritourism model. Moreover, the area being used for the expansion is not prime due to shadow effect of the existing winery, and the soil is of relatively poor quality compared to the rest of the site that is all in current production. So if they were to be supported by the Agricultural Land Commission, of course, this would move on to the ALC after any decision of council, if council chooses. They would have to provide additional parking spaces. 1 space for every 4 seats will be required, and this would be required at the building permit stage. So the Agriculture Advisory Committee recommended that the Agriculture Advisory Committee recommend support for the non-farm use at the subject property to expand the indoor food and beverage service area by an additional 40 meters squared to 162.8 meters squared, and the outdoor food and beverage service area by an additional 60 meters squared or 150.1 meters squared. And that the Agriculture Advisory Committee supports council directing staff to forward the subject application to the Agricultural Land Commission for consideration.
Thank you very much. Councillor Scarrow.
The one confusing part for me is right now they have whatever square meters as outdoor space, and this is over the allowable limit. If they add 9 more square meters to the outdoor space, this brings them into compliance. Explain that.
I'm not sure I can explain it. I think you just did. They are overshooting as per their application, they're slightly over. It would require this approval to bring them into compliance. Conversely, we could have a discussion with them and have them remove 9 meters squared. What is interesting, and perhaps this will provide some context, is that they actually have a lot more concrete here that they may or may not use. As it relates to outdoor space, it's kind of interesting as it relates to wineries, because quite often they overbuild and then they provide delineations for their indoor versus outdoor space. So they could put up some,
I think you're missing the point.
Okay.
We have a number. We have a number.
Yeah.
That is already over the allowable limit.
Correct.
We're adding 9 square meters, and that makes it all okay.
If you approve it, you make it legal.
I understand now.
So to
Thank you
speak.
for your clarification.
Okay.
Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Paul, one quick question. The parking, I know from being there that they have a considerable parking lot in the front of the building. Would that, as it currently stands with the amount of parking, enable them to provide the seating at 1 space for every 4 seats, or do they need to put in additional parking to meet this new expanded capacity?
So my short answer to that question is they would have provided the parking as it related to the original proposal as part of the development permit. So anything that they add in addition, I'm not aware that they built extra parking spots, so they would have to add some additional spots.
So where would those be added
The applicant has not shown us that at this point and may not wish to until they find out whether or not they're approved. I did speak with Mr. Vader about this, and he did note that they do have additional space on site for parking. Perhaps he would be more suited to have that.
Okay, I would like to know if we need to do another variance or whether there's going to be more parking put down the side or something like that.
Okay.
Is the applicant here?
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. I'm Roger Green from MQN Architects. I'm here for the O'Rourke family on this project. I guess a couple places to start on this one. What we're looking at is, Paul very clearly defined, is that we're looking to do a small expansion onto the winery into an area that's not currently in agricultural use. I don't think that's a big question here. As to your question on the parking, we actually hadn't looked at the additional parking requirement at this time. Certainly, as when we go for a building permit, we could take a look at that. And if there is a parking requirement that we need to add, there is some additional space, as Paul mentioned, on the front side that we could look at. That would be between the existing winery building and Goldie Road right now. So we could take a look at that. We weren't aware of that at this point. We'd been more focused on getting through the agricultural land portion, because we do recognize that this expansion is a change to the usage.
Okay, good, thank you. I have Councillor Gamble on the line, maybe just, she may have a question.
Yeah, I'll stay here.
As well. Councillor Gamble, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, but I don't really have a question.
Oh, okay.
I was just going to comment that that property, the land that is to the north of the facility, was occupied by an old packing plant many years ago, which became occupied. Became residential, and that was removed. And so where most of that expansion is proposed is going to be that area. And when the Agricultural Advisory Committee looked at it, they thought that there was very little negative impact on agriculture. So I would be prepared to move this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
More questions, Councillor Arnold? Oh, Councillor Gamble moved, Councillor Arnold second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Still has to get it from ALC now. We're just recommending to.
Yeah, this is just another step in the process.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And development permit. Careful then. Good evening.
Good evening.
You're up. Give him Paul.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to disappoint you there. Yeah. All right.
He just told me to do.
Hey, Bill. Yeah.
Okay, Council. Okay, simmer
Yes,
down
thank
now. Good evening. This is an application that you deferred at your last meeting as a result of some concerns. Leslie presented this to you last time, and rather than have her come for this single application this evening, I'm going to run through the slides with you. This was Development Permit 2020-014 for 1795 Lakestone Drive. This was a development permit application for a single family residence. Obviously, OCP in that area is urban residential, and it's subject to the DC3 direct control 3 zone, which is of course Lakestone. Property, I'll remind you, is located here, and the conversation came up because it is directly adjacent to some public land between the edge of their property and Okanagan Lake. This is the aerial photograph for you. There was quite a bit of background, and considering it was at last meeting, I'm not going to go through this in entirety, but I will advise you that the environmental assessment has been modified. The applicant was contacted and modified the application. There is no plan included for a set of stairs anywhere to that back property line where the concern was expressed. All of the development will be outside of the SPIA, and your concerns about the steep cliff and the public space were heard by the applicant, and as such, they've modified their application. So just some reminders. Here's the site plan. Note that there's no stairs shown downwards to that property line. Here's the landscape plan with some retaining. You'd have to be, I imagine the quail will get over nicely, but humans probably not so much. Elevation drawings to remind you what was there. You can certainly see the significant slope at the back of this lot. So footprint, development footprint obviously remains the same at 373 meters squared. It includes landscaping, the building foundation and the roof overhangs and the driveway access. So in response to the guidelines for each of the natural environment, hillside, wildland fire, and greenhouse gas reduction and resource conservation development permit area guidelines, they have been substantially met. So CAO has also updated his comments with respect to the modified proposal now, with the issue of the stairway being resolved. I think we're in a position to move forward with your consideration of the application, and you may in fact decide you would like to add additional security in the form of a restrictive covenant. I can make comment on that from the perspective of the approving officer. I'm kind of surprised that there isn't already one there, but I wasn't here at that time, so I can't speak directly to it. But it's not uncommon at all for lots in these kind of conditions where there's a very steep embankment that there would be a no disturb covenant. So a stairway into that public area probably wouldn't have come up if that had been asked for, but that's something that you and I will discuss moving forward in terms of some of our policy direction as we move forward. So
thank you.
At this point, there's two options then. Option A is that it be approved with the usual requirements for the security deposit for landscaping and the requirement that the applicant take action within 5 months. And of course, option B is that the permit
Councillor
be
Ireland,
denied.
discussion, question?
No, thank you. I'd like to move move option A with the restrictive covenant, section 219.
Okay, and Councillor Scarrow second, and any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Craig.
Boy, do you ever inspire debate?
Who's up? Who's up?
Your worship, next is Parks DCCs.
You're doing that?
Not me.
Park Development Cost Charge? Hey, Steve. Good evening.
Hello, good evening, Mayor and Council. So we're here tonight seeking a number of policy decisions in order to move forward with the Parks DCC bylaw update. Collectively, these policies provide really important direction around the amount of new parkland to be acquired and developed in Lake Country as we continue to grow, and how those costs are distributed between new development and existing residents, and then also amongst the different development types. This is a follow-up to the strategy session that we held back in September. This time we will be asking for a resolution from council. I'm not going to go over that right now, but we'll get into more detail on that at the end of the presentation. Another important thing to note is that we brought this forward, these policy recommendations, to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee last night, and that was mentioned in the report. Had a really good discussion with them, got lots of input, and in the end, the committee did express their support for the recommendations through a formal resolution. So otherwise, yeah, I'm really pleased to have Joel Short with Urban Systems here this evening. He's been leading the analysis on our parks DCCs, and he's going to take you through the key issue and policy questions in more depth, including the options, the pros and cons, the recommendations, and the rationale behind that. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Joel.
Thank you, Steve. Good evening, Joel.
Good evening. Thank you, Steve. So I'm going to focus on the memo that I prepared. It's attached to the request for council decision, and I'll just work my way through that. The memo sets out a number of areas where we require council direction, and as Steve mentioned, a lot of it was discussed at the council strategy session, but there were also some additional information points that were requested by council, so we've provided some of those as well. So there's some basically 6 key areas where we require council direction. One is parks DCCs for single attached and multifamily. Another is the DCC assist factor. There's the benefit allocation approach, including neighborhood parks and DCCs, the amount of parkland acquired and developed, and the industrial and commercial parks DCCs. So hopefully you had a chance to read the memo. I'll hit the highlights and hit the highlights of our recommended options, and then we'll have it open for discussion. I don't know if it's possible to bring that memo up, or is that?
Should be.
You got it on your screen right in front of you. Okay, perfect. So you can just follow right along. So the first item was DCCs for single family and multifamily. So currently the district has a lower parks DCC for multifamily compared to single family. And the district could have a parks acquisition charge that's exactly the same for single family and multifamily. And the logic is that that apartment dwellers or people who live in townhouses actually have a bit of a higher need for parkland, since they don't have backyards. There's often, higher density, and you could keep the charge the same for both, and that recognizes that slightly more land per capita is required for multi-unit developments. And we offered 2 options. One, continue with the current approach, and the second was to change the approach to say that have the same parks DCC rates for multi and single. And we recommend going with option 2, which is changing the approach to have the same parks DCC rates for multifamily and single detached units. That way that multifamily pays closer to the true impacts of the parks demand. It results in a little bit lower parks DCC for the other land uses like commercial, institutional, industrial, and single attached, because multi-family units, they're kind of carrying a bit more of their fair share. So I'm just going to go through all of them, and then we can come back all of them relatively quickly. I might spend a bit more time on the last 2 because they're a bit new. The second item was the parks DCC assist factor. So right now the current assist factor is 1%. That means that growth is primarily paying for growth. You could increase the assist, and that reduces the DCCs, and you have the broader community subsidize that growth. One thing as a reminder is that the assist factor, it's not based on any technical information. It is a policy decision of council, and so it's a pure policy decision. So we recommend keeping the parks DCC assist factor at 1%. That ensures new development is paying for the impacts of growth on parks and sends a message that Lake Country isn't subsidizing growth. A con is that it doesn't result in a lower parks DCC. The next item is the parks DCC benefit allocation approach. And in that, there's 2 main ways that you can look at parks DCC benefit allocations. One is a proportion of the entire parks program. So you look at the entire parks program, what you need for new parks, replacement, renewal, and you take a portion of that and allocate it to growth. Another is the direct connection to growth method, where you just say, okay, there's a certain amount of parks acquisition and development that's related directly to population based on a specific standard, like a certain amount of hectares per 1,000 people. So for every 1,000 people that move to Lake Country, you need a certain amount of parks, say 4 hectares or 2.3 hectares or 1 hectare for neighborhood parks. And so there's a couple of options. We recommended going with the option 2, the direct connection to growth, because you have clear policies and it clearly relates new population growth to the park's demand and relates well to your goals. One con of that, just to keep in mind, is that sometimes it can be misconstrued as DCCs paying for 100% of all parks, because people see a list and they go, oh, 100% being paid by DCCs. But that doesn't include all the other parks that you're having to, renew and replace. And so it's just something to keep in mind, that it's not DCCs paying for all parks in Lake Country. It's DCCs paying for the growth parks. Now, another item is including neighborhood parks in DCCs. So currently, the district includes acquisition for community parks, since neighborhood parks are acquired through the 5% parkland dedication upon subdivision. However, when you've got like a multifamily development, it usually doesn't require subdivision because you've got a multifamily development on an existing lot. So they don't provide the neighborhood parks. So a way to deal with that is to include neighborhood parks in the DCCs, and if the developer provides the 5% parkland dedication, they get a DCC credit. So we presented 3 options, and we're recommending option number 3, which is to include those neighborhood parks in the DCC program, keep the 5% parkland dedication, and provide a credit for the DCCs, a DCC credit for developers if they provide that parkland dedication. So it's really kind of, from our perspective, the best of all worlds, because you generate neighborhood parks for multifamily development. You still allow single detached developers to provide parkland, and they just get a credit for it. You do end up with a somewhat higher DCC because you're including neighborhood parks in your DCCs. Now, item number 5 are the target amounts of parks for development and acquisition. And this is where we provided a bit more information. We set out 4 options. Some of those options we talked about last time, but we added an additional option. So we've got option 1, which was the 4 hectares per 1,000 population for both park development and acquisition. So that's the DCC program paying for that. Option 2 is basing the DCC program on achieving the target of that develops active parks at 2.3 hectares per 1,000 population, but also acquires new land for parks at 2.3 hectares. So remember, there's 2 different components. There's developing, so you're building playgrounds and fields on land that you've already got, and then there's acquiring, so you're acquiring new land. So here we've got in option 2, there's 2.3 hectares developing and 2.3 hectares per 1,000 population in acquisition. Option 3 is we're saying let's still achieve that 2.3 hectares per 1,000 population in developing, putting playgrounds and sports fields on land that we've got, but we can reduce the acquisition to only what's necessary. And that ends up being the equivalent to about 1.6 hectares per 1,000 population. But it's not based on that specific standard, it's just what's necessary, which ends up being about 1.6 per 1,000. And then option 4 is maintaining the current parks DCC rate. Also, option 3 doesn't need as much land as option 2 because we're building on playgrounds and fields on the existing vacant parkland that the district already has acquired in the past. So you can see that there's a range of numbers there under option 1, just looking at single detached. If you get different charges for single detached and multifamily. Under option 1, the single attached is about $34,000 per unit. Under option 2, it's about $19,000 per unit. Under option 3, it's about $15,000, and the existing one is about $2,100. If you got the same charges for single attached and multifamily, the charges come down a little bit for single attached, and you can see the numbers there if you have it for about $28,000, $16,000. And $12,700 for options 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So we set out the pros and cons of all the various 4 options, and we recommended option 3, which is you base the DCC program on achieving the target and making really effective use of the land that you've already got. So that makes efficient use of the land that you've got. And it does allow the district to reduce the parkland acquisition for the 15 years of the DCC program. And you gradually reduce that supply of undeveloped parkland. However, you would probably need to, at the end of the 15 years, then start to shift to collect that 2.3. And then finally, the commercial and industrial DCC. So this was where you wanted some more information on how they would impact the comparison with commercial and industrial DCCs in other Okanagan communities. And that also led us to reconsider the equivalency factors for commercial and industrial uses. And so there's a couple of choices there. You can use the old equivalency factors or shift to the new ones. The new ones, essentially, the old ones in the existing bylaw use the exact same equivalency factors for sewer, for water, for roads, for drainage, and for parks. And so we thought, oh, well, maybe it's useful to think about parks a little differently. And so we created some custom equivalency factors specific to Lake Country and specific to your goals. And so you end up with some slightly different numbers for commercial, industrial, and institutional. You end up with less of an increase with the new equivalency factors for commercial, institutional, and even a little bit less for industrial as well. And then we did some comparisons. And one of the things that you need to think about is that not all communities have parks DCCs for industrial and commercial. And so it's good to compare the entire package of the DCCs. So another thing too is that there's a lot of factors to consider when comparing commercial and industrial DCCs. I listed a number of them in the memo. So the numbers aren't the only part of the story, but it's still we'll look at the comparisons because those are there. But it's good to remember that there's a lot of different factors that come into play. And so when it comes to commercial, the commercial DCCs, you can see there's quite a wide variety of commercial DCCs in the valley, all the way from $42 per square meter in Coldstream to $139 in Kelowna South Mission. If you were to increase the parks DCCs from $7 to $22 per square meters, that's an increase of about $15. So that puts you from $67 a square meter to $82 a square meter. So what's that mean? It means it's really similar to Kelowna's inner city and Vernon, and it's lower than Westbank First Nation, IR number 9, and quite a bit lower than Kelowna South Mission. But it would be higher than, say, Coldstream or Peachland. So you can see there's a wide range of DCCs. When you think about industrial, one thing to keep in mind is that demand for industrial land is really high. There's a real shortage of industrial land in the Okanagan, particularly serviced industrial land. So industrial DCCs don't seem to play that big of a role in terms of where industry locates. And when you look at the actual range of industrial DCCs in the Okanagan, you see it varies widely, all the way from $13 a square meter in Coldstream to $164 a square meter in West Kelowna. So you can see that's like a 10, 15 times difference in range. And so if you were to increase your DCCs, which is about a $7 per square meter increase based on option 3, you'd be at about $74 per square meter. So that's very similar, a little bit higher than Kelowna South Mission and Westbank First Nation, but still lower than Vernon, West Kelowna, and Westbank First Nation, IR number 9. And another thing to think about, that if DCCs made an enormous difference in terms of where industrial development goes, then Peachland and Coldstream, which has the lowest DCCs, would see the most amount of industrial development, and West Kelowna and Vernon would probably see the least amount. But it's actually the opposite. You see much more industrial development in, say, West Kelowna, yet they're the ones with the highest industrial DCCs. So some things to think about there. We recommended option number 2, use those new equivalency factors. It results in a more accurate reflection of how industrial and commercial equates with residential in Lake Country, and it keeps the overall commercial industrial DCCs in a regional range compared to other Okanagan communities. It does result in a small increase in residential DCCs, about $500 and $550. So those are the impacts there. So our recommendations are set out in the council request for council decision report. So we've got the 6 recommendations, or a 6-part recommendation. We're recommending to establish the parks DCC rates that are the same for single family and multifamily, maintaining the 1% parks DCC assist, relating the amount of parks acquisition and development directly to population, including neighborhood parks in the DCC program, keep the 5% parkland dedication and provide a DCC credit if developers provide the parkland dedication, and then base the DCC program on achieving a target that maintains that current supply of 2.3 hectares, but reducing the acquisition to only what's necessary, which is about 1.6 hectares per thousand, and establish those new equivalency factors. So that's
thank you very
brief
much.
overview, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Ireland, you had a question?
Penny, sure. Penny had a question.
Yeah, she's online and I had her name after you, so.
Yes, well, you didn't call on me until now.
Yeah.
So the reason I put my hand up was that I have been thinking a lot about the keeping the single-family residential rate the same as condos, and I do not agree with that. The reason is, and I've been thinking about it a lot, you can have secondary suites, you can have accessory suites, both of which could mean you'd have two families living, at least two families, living in a single-family residential unit. I fail to see where there could be any comparison, or very little comparison, with a condo, which could often condos have single person living in them. You know, so I just think that it really penalizes the condo development, and I think that we would like to see more condos in our community so that there's more opportunity for affordable housing. I think that it can definitely increase the cost of affordable housing in our community, and I can't support that part of it. So I would support the rest with an amendment to that part, but hear what the others have to say.
Yep.
Thank you very much. First off, just a quick question around the 5%. I think we had this question answered before, but I just want to get it clear in my head. It's at our option, is that correct? Or did they get to choose?
Yeah, we have it set up in our policies in the OCP and through the recommendations of the Park and Recreation Master Plan, where we actually established some criteria around what we would accept for the 5% parkland dedication. So that has allowed us now to be able to be a bit more choosy and say, you know, we're looking for this size of parkland, you know, flat, usable, road frontage. So we do have the choice between parkland dedication or cash in lieu.
Yeah, that's my biggest concern, because in the past we've accepted you know, the scraps or rock piles, or you know, I mean, we accepted a school building site that the school district refuses to build on. So you know, that's quite important that we have the option. To Councillor Gamble's comments on the multifamily, I'm opposed to. I'm in support of charging them the same. There's a higher impact on parks in multifamily residential condo units because they need them more. So a much higher impact. It's a higher impact on the entire community, right? A condo unit, when you put all those people into one place, it's a much bigger impact on the earth than right there. So I would not support amending that. I'd support it, the whole package as is.
Thank you. Councillor Scarrow.
Councillor Ireland stole my thunder, but I agree with Councillor Ireland that the use of a park and an amenity is definitely a lot more with the condominium as compared to single family. I really appreciate Joel and the rest of you guys, Steve, for including the industrial land as an opportunity to reduce the cost to those industries that may choose or choose not to come. So I am in support of all 6 recommendations.
Thank you. I need a motion. Councillor Scarrow and Councillor Aaron, motion option A in the report, and those are further discussion. Those in favor? Opposed?
I'm opposed.
Opposed?
I'm opposed.
Okay. Councillor Gamble opposed. The motion carried. Thank you. And
Thank you.
the CAO. is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your work, Joel.
Oh, what's this guy?
I don't know.
The mess.
All right.
And
Thank you, Your Worship. The first report that I have for you tonight is Policy 139 Amendment, the CAO one employee of council policy. Just for your information and for the information of the public, this comes from a number of meetings we had with council and the administration to address a number of general issues with respect to the vision, the external liaison and representation, which is coming to the next council meeting, and the CAO one employee of council policy and the code of ethics, which is the last piece that I'm working on. In discussion with council, you told us that the CAO one employee of council policy 139 does not need much change. So we, council expressed the major addition to the policy would be to establish a provision addressing the working relationship between the mayor and the CAO, which we've added as number 4 or point number 4 in the policy. And we did some minor amendments which are highlighted in red in the policy, which is attached to your report. Basically, under the purpose heading, we added a couple of definitions to clarify the role of staff in assisting the CAO. And also we have made some minor wording adjustments to points 2 and 3 to further qualify and clarify according to what we have practice and policies in place already. Just to make sure that we are on the same page with respect to point number 4, which is the new addition to the policy. The CAO, this is, I'm going to read the point here, the section. The CAO will have a close working relationship with the mayor and have regular communication to promote respect, trust, and role clarity. Regularity and format of communication should be established after each election of a new mayor and appointment of a new CAO. And so I've reviewed this with Deputy CAO Gross, who's going to be the next CAO, and she's the one that proposed some of the changes, and especially the ones on point 4. And it's, you have an option to approve the draft policy as attached to the report, or we have 2 other options there. One is that you refer it back to us to clarify further elements or to provide us more direction, or just do nothing.
thank you. Councillor Ireland had a question?
No, I'd like to move option A.
Okay. And Bill seconded. All right. Any further discussion? Those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Good. Thank you. Thank you. And are you doing
I got the next one too.
the next one?
Yeah, that's the 2021 regular council meeting schedule, which was prepared by Ms. Perez. The option is that the 2021 regular council meeting schedule be adopted. The schedule is proposed in the report, and it follows the council procedure bylaw.
Okay. Councillor Reid?
I have one question. In August, we have one meeting and it's on the 17th of August. Would it be possible to move it to the 24th of August? It would then give us a full month of break between council meetings from the 20th of July to the 24th of August. It would not change the number of meetings that we have per year. It still gives us 2 weeks between the last meeting in August and the first meeting in September.
That's up to council.
It just gives a bigger break for everybody to get away.
So just to let you know, the reason why it's the 17th, because it's the third Tuesday of the month. Otherwise, obviously, this is up to council. There's no problem there.
Councillor McKenzie.
So with that in mind then, 2 weeks in between, does that give you enough time to be prepared for those meetings then?
The 24th to the.
Because
to the
usually you have a little break at the end of the month before the next meetings, right?
24th to the 7th is what,
Usually, there's a few extra days, so I just want to make sure that doesn't throw a wrench into how you normally do things.
I think we can handle.
Okay?
Yeah, yeah.
No, I would support that. Yeah.
I don't
like it.
think there's a problem there.
yeah, no, it makes eminent sense.
You might be gone fishing then.
All right, moved by Councillor Reed then, and seconded by.
Would that change from August 17th to August 24th?
Seconded by Councillor Arlen. Good. Those in favor?
Are we talking about August 24th?
Yeah.
Okay.
Opposed? None opposed? No, I might not be able to make that. Motion carries. It doesn't matter. Then you get an extra day or extra week.
That's my annual sound fishing.
Yeah, well, that.
Okay, if I can go, I'll vote with you. But if I'm not going. It's gonna be on September 7th, you're bringing fish. Yeah.
So yes, that would be correct, but I can't make that meeting then.
No, you can come back. On
September 7th, Todd is bringing fish.
I can't make the 24th of August. That's my already booked fishing
We'll
trip.
excuse you.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Councillor Scarrow.
If not making a change makes it available for all councillors to arrive, and making a change makes it impossible for one councillor to come, I wonder if the merits of changing a date reflect the benefit or detriment to this council. Todd's a big part of this council, and I would hate to see him miss some work because of some play.
He can zoom in from his boat.
Yeah. Inconsequential.
Your worship, the motion was already carried.
Yeah, that's why I'm telling you, it's inconsequential.
We will probably be as well, right?
Yes, we can.
So yeah, that is an option. We're
Absolutely,
good.
absolutely.
Okay.
Procedure by law allows that.
We're getting out of,
We're getting silly, let's go home.
no, there's nothing to report from in-camera council committees. The Agricultural Advisory Committee.
Yeah, we dealt with that,
That
that's the O'Rourke
that was an action
application.
item?
Yeah.
Okay, we dealt with that. And the Berry Road one? No?
Where are you?
I don't know. I'm looking at meetings, council committees, information items, strategic priorities. Is that an extra page on mine that you don't have? Yeah.
That's the usual information pages.
Nothing we need to do with those. We come to councillor items.
Yeah. No, actually. We already dealt with them.
I thought we did.
I'd like to ask one question on that.
Okay, the Okanagan Basin Water Board, highlights, go ahead.
So
See if I can answer.
on the Okanagan Basin Water Board, we have on here where it says water grant theme announced, intake
Yeah.
is open. So it says there's 350,000 available.
Yes.
And I'm just curious with our various water issues in our district, do we qualify for any of those?
They're based primarily our water advisory committees give support to non-government organizations that are asking for grants that from the regional districts, from the Okanagan Basin Water Board, the 3 regional districts.
Okay.
North, central, and south, or Okanagan, Sonokumi. And they're eligible for grants from that $350,000 pool that can be up to Not usually 100,000 or 100%.
Okay, so-
For considerable amount, but it comes from applications that are other than municipalities.
So for instance, if we have some water sources in Cars Landing, they
No.
don't qualify because they
No,
fall
it's-
under us?
It's for environmental.
Okay.
Upgrades.
Okay, just curious.
Yeah. Cars Landing, with the water system is not a part of it. But there are other, applications that can be made to the Okanagan Basin Water, set up mainly for wastewater applications, but, all right, I think now we're to, councillor items. Councillor Reid, tell us.
Super quick, I just wanted to say thank you to Wendy Malmquist and her team for organising, it's a little bit going back a little bit, but Halloween in Cars Landing. We had 28 houses participate with full COVID-friendly decorations and treat dispensing, 28 kids and numerous adults, all socially distanced. So it was a huge success, and hopefully we can persuade her to do it again next year.
Yes, very good. Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's say all is well in sunny Oyama. Quite happy to see the Legion was successful in raising some money under these challenging times. So I would say all is well.
Good. Councillor Arlen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to bring forward something that affects all of us that we don't really talk about very much. But last night, the Coquihalla was closed. It was closed due to trucks jackknifing. And the reason that these trucks are jackknifing is because they don't chain up. And some person in that line closing remarked that there was 277 trucks pulled over or jackknifed on the highway, which caused it to be closed. So, you know, you all think, oh, it's not a big impact. It's a huge impact to the Okanagan. Every time that highway closes, the economy of this area suffers in a big way. Plus, I was thinking about this because my daughter drove down to Vancouver the night before. And every person who drives on that road is in danger when those guys don't do what they're supposed to do. So I think I would like us to see if we could write a letter to the province to get them to step up, check, you know, I don't know if it's the RCMP or the province, but to step up checking that these trucks put chains on and that they do it properly, because they're putting people from the Okanagan in danger all the time. And they're greatly impacting the economy of the area.
Good point. Thank you.
So you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I
Write
can
a
make a
letter
notice
to-
of motion for next time, but.
No, you can make a motion now. I
It's a
mean, this is
small
very
one,
simple,
so
yeah.
if we could write a letter to the authorities to step up the checking of trucks putting on chains on for the safety of the people that are driving that road,
Okay, I need a second.
that are our friends and our family.
I'll second it.
Councillor McKenzie, second. Further discussion? Those in favor? Okay. Do you want the letter back to council, or you can circulate to council?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We'll circulate to council once it's.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Motion carries. Councillor Scarrow.
Real short, you guys. Second wave is coming. Wear a mask, wash your hands, social distance, and duck.
Thank you. Councillor Kozub.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I follow Councillor Scarrow's lead and say that, yes, if we don't smarten up and stay away from each other and stay clean and safe, we aren't going to have a Christmas, or our Christmas is only going to be with the people in our own homes, because the lockdown is going to come if things don't change, because the numbers keep rising as we keep watching, and just can't believe how it is out there. So stay safe.
Thank you. And Councillor Gamble online.
Thank you, and yes, I think second wave is here. Anyways, yeah, ask everybody to be careful, be safe, and just take good care. Thanks for everybody. Good night.
And our youth councillors come forward to the podium, microphone, turn it on, and you tell the, just.
Oh, there we
that's
go.
it. It's gone.
Usually they sing, don't they?
No.
We can try, we need to rehearse a
But
little bit more.
any items you wish to have council address, this is the opportunity, and also the community. You're talking to the world, actually, because this is webcast.
I don't think so. Our school is doing a lot of fundraisers that are incorporating the community, mostly just to help our grad class just kind of have a normal grad year with what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Just try and making the best of it. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a fundraiser for Christmas coming up for homes that have decorations. They can make a $5 donation and get their house entered to win prizes, I think.
Yeah, like submit into a draw for a gift basket. It's a fundraiser for us as grads, but also gets the community involved in the school and everything.
They get hold of the grad committee at George Eliot, or how do they?
Yeah, our grad committee is putting that on and everything, and yeah.
Okay.
You guys talk to communications person, Karen, she'll give it on us.
Perfect.
And the social media.
That's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
I also just want to say thank you so much. I'm super grateful to be a part of this, and it's an amazing opportunity and learning experience. So thank you so much. Yeah.
Good. Thank you for attending.
Yeah, this is a great experience.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, and then Councillor Ara, no. We are adjourned.
You got the job.
Right.